across the UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
There you are. Good evening and welcome to the Political Asylum right here on Talk. I am your host, Kevin O'Sullivan, and I'll be with you all the way to 10 o'clock. Stand by for 3 hours of news, views and topical debate. Get involved, get on the phone and call me on 03444 499 1000. Or you can WhatsApp voice note me on the same number and I promise to play your message out. That is 0344 499 1000. Give me a call. It's good to talk on Talk. It is Tuesday, July the 15th. Here's what's coming up. The migrant crisis just got even worse amid extraordinary revelations that the government has been running a secret people smuggling operation after one of the most egregious balls-ups in British history. Somehow, someone, somewhere managed to leak details, names, addresses, etc., of the 100,000 Afghanis who helped the British Army during the Afghanistan war, putting their lives at great risk. Ever since this lethal mistake, the so-called Operation Rubific has been spiriting those on the danger list out of Afghanistan into Pakistan and then putting them on planes to Brize Norton RAF base here in the UK. So far, 18,500 refugees have been brought to Britain in this way, and a total of 23,900 are earmarked for the covert scheme, which has been unfolding under an inexplicable news blackout since 2023. Defence Secretary John Healey today lifted the super injunction that has prevented reporting of this mass airlift, and now urgent questions are being asked as to why the public and even MPs were prevented from knowing about a colossal relocation that has cost £7 billion and counting. Why has this huge influx of foreign migrants funded by British taxpayers been kept under wraps? By what right have successive governments thrown a veil of secrecy over a serious situation the public surely had a right to know about? 03444 499 1000. In other news, Et tu Road. Yes, it's the end of the road for John Turode, the MasterChef co-star of Greg Wallace, who just went the way of Greg. He just got sacked. The shambles at the BBC descended into fast today. As I say, Greg Wallace's MasterChef co-star, John Turode, was also fired. Apparently, he said a nasty racist word, so that's it for him. It's all over bar the cooking, which he won't be doing on TV anymore. It's certainly not on the BBC. Meanwhile, after presiding over the scandals of Hugh Edwards, Gary Lineker, the lying Gaza documentary, alleged anti-Semitism in the newsroom, and now the Bob Villan Glastonbury debacle, the Beeb's Keystone Cop Director General Tim Davie has landed a pay rise, taking his super salary up to a handsome £540,000 a year. What did he get this rise for? Screwing up everything in spades? And if Culture Secretary Lisa Nandy is really treating the state broadcaster's escalating mess with the urgency she says it requires, why won't Davie and BBC Chairman Samir Shah appear before Parliament until September the 9th? That's urgent? 03444 499 1000. Also tonight, crazy Ed Miliband's latest astronomically expensive horrors on the net zero front, the sick joke of water chiefs' grotesque incomes. The worse these failing firms, the bigger the bosses' bumper salaries. 03444 499 1000. One of them earns £3.3 million a year for a company that's just useless. They all earn absolute fortunes, these bosses. They get huge bonuses, performance bonuses, as the water system of this country just sinks in a sea of hopeless inefficiency and uselessness. Why are they getting paid so much, these people? and bonuses. 0344 499 1000. Plus, the war on Britishness continues apace as a schoolgirl is sent home for wearing a Union Jack dress. She was told it was Diversity Day. It wasn't a day for British people. It was a day, she was told, for all the others. So she gets sent home for wearing the national flag. Good, isn't it? 0344 499 1000. And finally, Kinsey Schofield, our royal guru over there in America, with all the latest news from Planet Harry and Meghan, who tipped off the press about those peace talks between the Sussex's PRs and the King's people. Take a wild guess. All that and so much more, so don't go anywhere. Stick with me right here, right now on Talk, the home of free speech and common sense. Let's spend Tuesday night together. Got that in my ear there. Forgot the day. Good journalist I am, aren't I? Well, I'm going to be joined throughout the show by some very good journalists, but none better than the first. He is the prolific columnist for The Sun, The Sunday Times, The Spectator, also presents Times Radio Saturday morning show from 10 a.m. until 1 p.m. A warm welcome, as ever, on a Tuesday to the great Rod Liddle. Hi, Rod.
Hiya, mate. How you doing? That schoolgirl caught me. Absolutely shocking story.
Yeah, it really is. I tell you, I saw the story last night, and I said, well, let's check out the parents, shall we? You know, I was a bit worried about the kind of family she might be coming from. But it turns out I shouldn't be so cynical. They're a very nice family, decent family, a patriotic family, and that poor kid, 12 years old, essentially.
No, it's the teachers you ought to have been checking out.
Yeah, I should have been. I won't make that mistake again. Listen, we're going to get on, obviously, to this Afghan situation, which is absolutely extraordinary and bizarre, to be honest with you. But I wanted to get you on the BBC first, your former employers. Now, we need to go into the annual report. We'll, of course, talk about the Greg Wallace debacle. But in the last hour, we've found out that John Turode, his hapless co-star, has also been sacked. So John Turode, if I was John Turode, I'd be going, hang on a second. So there's this co-star of mine. He's accused of 83 serious offences, 45 of which have been upheld in an independent investigation. He's accused of groping women, chasing them around with nothing on, behaving incredibly inappropriately, swearing, telling filthy jokes, all this. He gets fired. So if I was John Turode, I'd say, right, he's been fired for that. I've been fired for saying a nasty, apparently racist word at a party. There's not much equivalence there, is there?
Well, it's not merely that there's not much equivalence. It's also that there wasn't an investigation into John Turode. And if I were him, I'd be talking to my lawyers very quickly indeed, because he has been hung out to dry for basically no reason whatsoever. Someone said he said something nasty at a party. I don't know if there's corroborating evidence. It wasn't even him that they were looking into. It's in my opinion, mismanagement again by the BBC. They shouldn't do that. People have to have the right to appeal. Now, John Turode always struck me as being, a plank of wood, if we're absolutely honest, mate. And I'm not mad on MasterChef. I don't like all the hoop-de-doodle they do with it, all this, the tension they try to build into it. But I'm just not convinced by the Turode stuff particularly. Wallace, if it had been that bad, why wasn't he sacked years ago? Why didn't they take notice of what people were saying? And I suspect that an awful lot of it, I mean, you mentioned he was sexually harassing. If he did anything that sexually harassed people, then he should go. But so far as I was aware, the investigation into him cleared him of all the more serious allegations and just left him with maybe opening his dressing room door with a sock over his todger. Yeah. I mean, I do that every day to my wife, and she liked it. I have to say.
Well, what did you say? Where's my other sock?
Yes, that's right. That's right. Darn this, love.
But the thing is, Lisa Nandy was quizzing the Director General Tim Davey. only earlier this week, saying, what do you have to do to get sacked from the BBC? You know, we've had, of course, Hugh Edwards, Gary Lineker, the Lying Gaza documentary, the ongoing newsroom anti-Semitism row, of course, the Bob Villan Glastonbury storm, all of which presided over by Tim Davie. Lisa Nandy saying, well, what exactly do you have to do at this corporation to get fired? Well, I could have helped her out. You have to be working class. Then they'll fire you. They'll fire you with alacrity.
They'll fire you if you're working class or Australian.
Yeah.
That's
basic.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. There's a footnote, by the way, to the Glastonbury stuff. The BBC, you see, thinks this is a coming together of the nation, whereas it's a coming together of the upper middle class 50-year-olds, you know. And it thinks it's just a joyous celebration. But it is a political forum. That's what it is. And if you doubt that, look at what the founder of Glastonbury said, Michael Eavis, who said, yes, it's political. If you don't like the politics of Glastonbury, don't come to Glastonbury. So it's very straightforward for the BBC. There is a statement from the man who runs it, who ran it, who started it, that it's a political event, at which you're going to hear things like Bob Villan and kneecaps. If you don't like it, don't come to it. Well, I would suggest by their charter, the BBC shouldn't be covering it for that very, very reason.
I'll tell you something, they're in trouble as well. Netflix are hovering. They may well lose Glastonbury to one of the streaming giants, which would be the ultimate irony. I'd love to
no, but they should. They shouldn't have it at all. Anyway, you know, I can't imagine. I don't pay my licence fee to watch the 1975 pouncing around.
God, they were bad, weren't they? So bad.
Awful.
Look, what about Tim Davie? It seems to me that the Director General's job at the BBC now is, well, if someone's prepared to do it and they can just about string a sentence together, why don't we just leave them in that office and they could just sit there catching flack day in, day out, which is what he does. That said, now George Entwistle, if you remember, one of his predecessors, he did the honourable thing and did step down over Jimmy Savile. It wasn't even really his fault. He'd only been in the job for about 40 days.
I think he was told to step down.
Yeah, but okay, let's give him some slack, though. He did the right thing. He stepped down. Now, Jimmy Savile, of course, an extraordinary scandal, above all other scandals, really. But Tim Davie has presided over, the Gary Lineker saga. Hugh Edwards is a real mess. As I say, newsroom anti-Semitism row, the Bob Villan Glastonbury storm, and of course the Gaza documentary, the shocking Gaza documentary that failed to mention that the star of the show, the narrator, was the son of a Hamas government minister. All of that he has presided over. And he's still there. He's still there. I mean, why don't they get rid of him? I mean, surely that's it. Come in, Tim, your time is up.
It's difficult, isn't it? I have some residual sympathy for Davie, because it's a bit like if you try to sort out the teachers. Where the hell do you start? And it's a bit like that with Davie. He knows, I think, that the BBC, well, he's said as much, has been biased on a number of issues, that it shows a left liberal bias. He knows that. And he's tried to do something about it. I don't think he's succeeded. But it is such a colossal organisation, 20,000 people. Where the hell do you start? I mean, I would sack everyone in it called James for a start.
Well, you'd only be left with about 5 people.
They'd be left with about 5. And
then sack all the women whose names end with A, like Pollyanna and Antarctica and Henrietta. But
it really is like that. It's an institution which is built upon its political stance. It is not a broadcasting organisation which is at its heart. It is at heart a political organisation, and has been for a long time. It broadcasts its own political views, and it embarrassingly so, quite often. And I just don't know where you start with that. It's from top to bottom. I know he got rid of, didn't he? He got rid of the head of music over the Glastonbury stuff.
Laura Clark, £215,000 a year. That's what she earns. The money they pay these people.
Incredible, the money they pay them. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it was always...
When you say got rid of, Rod, I need to correct... She was required to, that famous, increasingly famous BBC phrase, step back, which means you keep your job, but you can go for more lunches now. That's pretty much it. So, and also a small number, this is a BBC statement, a small number of other senior executives were also asked to step back after.
But they're still there, aren't they?
Yeah, well, they keep their jobs. This phrase is...
And every Director General who comes in says, we've got to have a clear out of the bureaucrats at the BBC. There are too many bureaucrats. Put some more money into programme making. And every single one of them, at the end of their tenure, ends with the balance tilted still further in favour of the bureaucrats.
Yeah, they actually hire more middle managers.
They hire more, yeah. And that's on top of the consultants they bring in to tell them that they need more bureaucrats. It's just,
But I take your point about Tim Davie. I think in the end, going forward, he will be a typical BBC Director General, just somebody who sits in an office catching flack and dealing with it. He said, I just don't get the chance to do anything except firefight. Well, that's because you're running a shambles. But we'll give him the benefit of the doubt to say that such an enormous organisation is difficult to control. What I would criticise him for, or what I would question his continued tenure over, is he is actually constitutionally incapable of accepting that just maybe, there's a scintilla of doubt over the BBC newsroom. Just maybe they might be a tad on the anti-Israel side, slipping into a kind of anti-Semitism. He won't have that. He won't have that one bit. And for that, I think he should be brought to task.
Well, probably, yes. And it's certainly true that the appalling Deborah Turner should have gone ages ago, the head of news. Just a litany of failures, particularly on Gaza, particularly on anti-Semitism. So, yeah, absolutely. I don't doubt that at all. And it probably is. You know, I'm slightly surprised he didn't resign over Glastonbury, given that he was actually there, you know, bopping up and down to Biffy Clyro or something. Just...
Well, but this is a guy. I mean, he's now, in terms of Glastonbury, he's gone way down the deputy heads will roll route insofar as you say, there are a lot of executives who were there and had the power to take the programme off air, and they didn't do. In other words, he's blaming people further down the ladder. I mean, he does seem to struggle with that concept.
He has a mobile phone, doesn't he?
Yeah.
He has a mobile phone. It will be paid for by the BBC, as mine was, and I kept it for ages after I left, by the way. All it would have taken was for him to ring, you know. I just... This notion that it was difficult to take a Bob Villan off air is an absurdity.
Yeah.
You know, it's an absurdity.
And also, as the head of the BBC, he is actually the legal personification of the BBC as the editor. He does seem to struggle with the concept of taking responsibility. A man in his position, he can't carry on just saying, well, it was his fault, it was someone down the line, I wasn't there. Well, you're responsible for the BBC, Tim. I think he's going to have to take that concept on board a bit more going forward.
Well, yes, and going forward, we are coming up to the traditional time that BBC Director Generals resign, which is just around about the time of the last night of the proms, where they insist upon banning Rule Britannia and everything. Which was what happened to Tony Hall, if you remember.
Yes, indeed.
And they lied over that. Yeah. You know, that was serial lying over the last night of the proms.
Yeah. Tony...
So maybe I don't have any doubt that the BBC Music people already have some sort of plan to have refugees singing whatever their anthem is, rather than rule Britain. They'll have something up their sleeve.
Well, you know who could get in trouble if something wrong does happen at the proms last night at the proms? It'll be the head of music, Laura Clark. £215,000 a year.
Well, she'll have to step back even further.
How much further do you want me to step back? I can't keep stepping back.
Well, no, she has to be able to look behind her to see what's there if she's stepping back. She could fall over.
Indeed. I'll tell you what, we've got to go to break now, but what I think the BBC's up to here with MasterChef, it believes that if they leave Tyrone there, he'll be tainted by his former association with the now sort of prohibited Greg Wallace, and therefore the programme will suffer. So they want a clean slate to bring in a couple of women, in wheelchairs or something like that.
Two Asians in wheelchairs.
That's right. That won't work. Listen, let's go. Bloody BBC. Let's go to break. When we come back, we'll talk about this extraordinary Afghanistan airlift story. That next, folks. Stay tuned.
This is someone whose numbers have never added up for more than 6 months at a time. In future, it will be spending reductions, and there's plenty of waste that we all know in government spending, rather than tax rises. That will avoid another summer of uncertainty. She caused one a year ago. She's now causing another because everyone, instead of spending or getting on or hiring people, is spending another summer worrying what is coming up in the Chancellor's budget next. Where else is the axe tax going to fall?
Yeah. Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. I'm still with prolific columnist and Times Radio presenter Rod Liddle. Rod Liddle, I hardly know where to start with this one. For 2 years, since 2023, the government has essentially been running a secret people smuggling operation from Afghanistan. This follows the accidental leaking by some bungling idiot of 100,000 names on a list of Afghanis who helped the British during the Afghanistan war. Now, these names being leased to the Taliban put these people's lives at serious risk. Ever since then, for 2 years, best part of 2 years, 23 months, the British government every couple of weeks apparently has been airlifting thousands of these Afghans from Pakistan. So what we've been doing, the mind boggles about this, we've been secreting them out of Afghanistan, I'm assuming across the Khyber Pass or something, into Pakistan, and then flying them to Brize Norton, the RAF base here, in these big transporter jets. 18,500 have come so far. It says here altogether 23,900 are earmarked for arrival. I don't know if that means 23,900 more or that's the absolute total. This is called Operation Rubific. I think my main question to you is, by what right did the then Tory government bring in a super injunction to make sure that the people of this country, and even MPs, Parliament, could not find out about this? By what right do they think they were able to actually operate a news blackout? John Healey today, the current Defence Secretary, to his credit, just said, well, I don't get the super injunction. The people have got a right to know about this, and ended it. But for the best part of 2 years, successive governments, started by the Tories but continued by the Labour government, have been operating a system to keep the people of this country and Parliament in the dark about a massive airlift of thousands and thousands of foreigners into this country. By what right did they feel they had to keep that secret? Why did they think they could do that?
It seems to me to be utterly criminal. I mean, do we know who the Prime Minister was at the time? Was it Rishi?
I think it was, and the people in the frame for the super injunction, we don't know precisely what their involvement was, but the names, the villains of this story in terms of the super injunction that are the names being bandied around are the then Home Secretary Suella Braverman and the then Immigration Minister Robert Jenrick. We don't know the actual details, but they are said to be the ones who started this injunction and had to deal with this leaking of 100,000 names.
I find it difficult to imagine that Suella Braverman would sign up to such a thing. I've got to say, it seems very, very odd. I also think, is it absolutely the case that 100,000 Afghans helped us? Is it really 100,000? I mean, I find that hard to imagine. And if they did help us, what exactly were they doing? I think there's a difference between those Afghans who were acting as interpreters for us and as scouts and so on. I think they do deserve to be sort of airlifted from the Taliban. But it seems to me that an awful lot of other people are caught up in that as well. It is, as you absolutely rightly say, it's criminal, absolutely criminal, and credit to John Healey for breaking the injunction. And it surprises me actually that Starmer didn't say anything about it at the time of the election when he found out about it. He must have presumably found out about it very soon after the election, at which point it would have been an enormous stick with which to beat the Conservative government. And I do not understand why they didn't do anything about it.
Instead, they've taken up the mantle. I mean, they've carried it on for a year. So, they've got just as many questions to ask as the previous government. Yeah,
well, no, they haven't, because they didn't put the injunction on. I mean, that's the...
Well, they carried it on, though.
They did carry it on, yeah, but it's the...
Well, maybe not just as many, but they've got questions to answer as well.
Yeah, no, absolutely. They do have questions to answer. And it's the contempt in which the ordinary voter is held, They regard us as being beneath contempt. We are not to be told what's going on. We were not told, for example, when Boris was on the throne, that he was going to let in as many people as he possibly could because he thought it was good for the economy. Just don't tell them. Don't tell them anything. And that's been the approach, certainly from the last Conservative government and almost certainly from this government as well. They just treat the electorate with contempt.
And ministers, we're now being told, it's being reported, fear that this news breaking, which actually makes the migrant crisis even worse, may trigger riots around the country. One way or another, I suspect there's going to be trouble in this country across the rest of the summer because of the migrant.
Well, there already is. I mean, the stuff we're seeing at Epping is a foretaste of what is to come, I think.
Yeah.
And I don't think it will wash this time because the government has lost any vestige of its sheen or popularity for Starmer to do what he did this time last year and demand they're just hooligans, bang them up. I think you're right. I think there will be problems, and I think a lot of this anger is entirely justified. We're letting in far too many people, many of whom hate us and want nothing to do with British culture, and the public wants an end to it, and it ought to be ended. And the only people who seem willing to be able to do that is Reform.
Yeah, indeed. These are interesting times. I can't believe this Afghanistan story. It's
incredible, isn't it?
It's absolutely astonishing. Rod, it's brilliant to talk to you as always. Thank you so much for your time, mate. That's Rod Liddle, columnist at The Sun. His Sun column comes out later in the week. Sunday Times, of course, and The Spectator. All excellent columns. I highly recommend them. Right after the break, Alex Phillips, my former TV wife, brilliant presenter here on Talk, will join us for 30 minutes of news, views and dynamic debate. That next, stay tuned.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Right, for the next 30 minutes, let's get going. It's rocket fuel time. Let's talk to the brilliant Alex Phillips. Hello, Alex.
Hello, Kev. How are you, my darling?
I'm very, very well. Thank you for stepping in. That's late notice. You're a much more attractive companion than Tim Montgomery. I'm sure.
Oh, that's who I am today. Okay.
That's what you're. You big shoes to fill. Seriously. Actually, before we get on to what I want to talk to you about, quick word from you about this extraordinary Afghanistan story. The fact that for 2 years the government has been running a secret people smuggling operation, smuggling so far 18,500 people out of Afghanistan into Pakistan, then flying them covertly on RAF transporter planes back to Brize Norton and then filtering them into the nation of Britain. So they're actually still all in temporary accommodation at the moment. But that's bizarre enough because it was caused because some idiot leaked the names of every Afghan person who helped us during the Afghanistan war, so their lives are at risk over there. So that's why they've had to bring about this airlift, which is still going on. But what's extraordinary about it is the government threw a veil, a cloak of secrecy over it. They put it under a super injunction. And only today, to his credit, John Healey, the Labour Defence Secretary, said, I don't see the need for this super injunction. The people have a right to know about this. Well, we had a right to know about it 2 years ago as well. By what right have successive governments kept this really important issue a secret from the people?
Yeah, well, it shows you just how panicked they are at how close we are, like most other countries in Western Europe, to going full-blown tonto over the level of immigration into this country, particularly from countries whose cultural values are not aligned with ours. I mean, with this story, there's nuance to it, okay? Because there are people who've campaigned long and hard about making sure that the men and the women who worked alongside Western forces in Afghanistan against the Taliban were given some sort of sanctuary. And in many respects, I think it is the right thing to do. However, what I want to know is, are these people thoroughly vetted and security checked? Why is the number so vast? Why is it so big? I mean, it's going to go up to something like 23,000, isn't it? That's a heck of a lot of people to be bringing over from a particular country. And also, what is going to happen to them now? Are these sort of men, women, translators, ex-government officials? Are they trained soldiers and killers? I mean, we need to understand quite who we've let into this country and by what mechanism. But the fact that there was a super injunction over this just goes to show how much the state is so concerned that their reckless cultural vandalism, their tirelessness of mass immigration, their commitment to this failed social project has now basically put our national security and our social cohesion against the ropes. You just have to look at what's going on in Spain, look at what's going on in Northern Ireland, in France, in Italy. I think that actually the moment that one of these countries tips into some sort of all-out civil war and then leads to, you know, that happening, that sort of being contagious across the continent, is far closer than I expected.
And government ministers apparently are worried that news of this influx, this vast influx, which, as we say, has been secretly going on now for 23 months, may cause riots, that people are absolutely sick of this, of it. You mentioned what kind of people are we letting in. It is well known, it's been written, the Mail have written about it, that several sex offenders who had previously been refused the right to come to Britain have now managed to come to Britain under this scheme because of their contention. Well, I might be a sex offender, but if you leave me in Afghanistan, I will be killed. So we are importing sex offenders. That's good, isn't it?
Yeah, no, I mean, this is the problem, isn't it? Like I said, it's a country whose fundamentally their culture really does not align with ours, particularly when it comes to the men from that country. We can see how they are treating women, little girls and little boys over there. And so I think it is quite alarming. The public have every right to know about this. But, you know, look at what's going on in Essex at the moment. It's not being reported at all on mainstream media, but there have been protests going on outside a migrant hotel for a couple of days now.
I reported it.
Of course you have, because you're a proper journalist, Kev, and you're not scared of the truth. But you won't find it really anywhere on any other news station, will you? And like I said, this is sort of made me really wake up and go, Europe is closed. You know, see what's going on in Spain. It's absolutely crazy.
By the way, Alex, let's just quickly talk about Epping. What that is that's now we have to be careful because he's denied all of the charges, but the chronology of this is shocking. This is why the people of Epping, a very nice town to the north of London, right next to Epping Forest, they have a hotel it's called the Bell Hotel, and that's their local asylum seeker joint. This Ethiopian guy was put into that hotel. He arrived in this country on a small boat illegally on the 29th of June. Within 8 days, he had been charged with 3 sexual assaults on local women. within 8 days. Now, as I say, we have to be careful. He's denied these offences. But if you think about this, if you're a normal person living in the nice town of Epping and you go, well, suddenly we've got this asylum seeker hotel here, that's bad enough, probably 300 young men of sexually active age with nothing to do. But next to a school. And then they learn, as I say, be careful, but then they learn a guy gets here on the 29th and within 8 days he's charged with 3 serious sexual assaults. That is the kind of information that is going to get local communities very angry, which is why Epping is erupting.
Yeah, no, of course it is. I mean, it's become such a hot topic. It was you and I, Kev, wasn't it, who really got the ball rolling on this topic over a year ago now, when we had that discussion about the behaviours of men from certain cultures towards women in this country. And it went viral, not just in the UK, but it went viral internationally around the world, because I think that we really were the first people to start talking about this problem. And now it's become quite a commonplace conversation. And I think it's one of the big reasons why parties such as Reform UK are polling so highly. An extraordinary thing happened to me actually the other day. I had a local Lib Dem come and knock my door, moaning about the main thoroughfare near to where I live in London being given 24-hour licenses for fast food chains. And I said to her, well, you know, this isn't about a party street. That's not where, you know, it's not like that in my borough. It's not like it's a sort of late night licenses for pubs and everyone having a yee-haw hoo-ha. I said, this is a Muslim thing. This is because when they fast, they like to eat at erratic hours, and the Uber drivers, which are largely Muslim men. And she said, I think you're right. And we started speaking about a local asylum hotel, and she said, I've been a Lib Dem all my life and I think I'm going to vote Reform. And you just think this is wow. I mean, you know, and it's about women's safety. A lot of women out there know what's going on and are terrified.
I tell you, the migrant policies of successive governments going back 15 years, as you and I have discussed many times now, but it's always worth repeating, have turned this country into an unsafe place for women. And that is an extraordinary development.
Yeah, no, it's true. And I mean, so many governments now, I remember when, you know, cheesy people like Ed Zero and the like all wore those T-shirts saying, I'm a feminist. And it's like, no, you're not. You're exactly the sort of people who want men in frocks to go into female changing rooms, and men from countries where they stone women and expect them to dress up like ghosts to live freely within our societies. You're not a feminist. Successive governments have thrown women under the bus. Everything they do is tokenistic. Oh, let's have an all-female shortlist. Oh, we need 50% of women to sit on boards or as CEOs. No, we don't. We don't need those things. That undermines us. Okay, what we need is governments to take our integrity and our safety seriously, and they're not doing it.
No, they're really not. And I'm glad you mentioned Ed Miliband, because we're going to talk about him after this break. Stick around, Alex. See you in a second.
But he never does press conferences, never talks to hacks like you and I, Mike. You know, he a bit of quizzing. You know, that's his job. Yeah. I think he's skating.
This is someone whose numbers have...
Yeah, and all these extra bonuses, and they're saying, we'd like that in return for not working those extra hours, which is not reasonable.
No, and it's a good way of, let's say, magical trick with numbers. You can compare two numbers that aren't like for like, come up with a headline, and that's what they're trying to grab on this. But I think ultimately, Julia, what the public want to hear is what's going to be done to solve it, and this will cost lives.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. I'm still with the great Alex Phillips. Alex, I'm going to play you a little exchange between Lee Anderson of Reform UK and Ed Miliband, the Net Zero Secretary. Crazy Ed, has taken to a new tradition. It's the climate change address. He's going to do this regularly to the House of Commons, which should ensure that the usually very empty House of Commons will be even emptier, and indeed it was on this occasion. But before I play you this, I'm sure you've noticed this. There's a problem in the House of Commons, and that is more and more Prime Ministers, Ministers, those at the dispatch box, simply don't answer the questions. They just go off on their own tangent. Now, I think that is an abrogation of duty, because MPs are asking questions on the behalf of their constituents. This is how democracy works. So when they ask questions, I think ministers should show them the courtesy of at least trying to answer them. So before I show you the exchange between Ed and Lee, this is the Tory MP Esther McVey complaining about the very syndrome I'm talking about. I think she's got a damn good point. Have a listen.
Point of order, Esther McVey, point of order.
Madam Deputy Speaker, we are elected to this House to hold the Executive to account and ask questions on behalf of our constituents. The Right Honourable Member for Doncaster North, in common with many ministers, is treating this House and our constituents with contempt by not even attempting to answer the questions that is asked of them, probably because those answers would be embarrassing to them. There is getting to be very little point asking ministers questions at the dispatch box. What can you do as Deputy Speaker to encourage ministers to actually answer the questions that are asked of them?
I thank the Honourable Lady for prior notice of that point of order. I trust and understand that she has notified the Right Honourable Member for Doncaster North. She has indeed. Ministers are responsible for their answers, not the Chair, but the point has been made and no doubt been heard, the point that's been made by the Right Honourable Member, and the Treasury front bench will no doubt relay that back to...
Well, Alex, the member for Doncaster North is, of course, the brilliant Ed Miliband, the mad Net Zero Secretary, and there's Esther saying he's disrespecting this House, he's not answering questions. To be fair to him, he's not the only one. The Prime Minister is a shocker for it. But anyway, have a look at this. This is Lee Anderson asking the Net Zero Secretary, the member for Doncaster North, a proper question about the climate. Watch this.
The statement from the Energy Secretary sounded like a desperate attempt to save his own job. But he's right. The British people do need protecting. They need protecting from the Energy Secretary, because businesses that I visit every single week say that his madcap ideas are killing growth, killing business and killing jobs. But I'm willing to give him the benefit of the doubt if he can answer one simple question which he's already refused to answer. By how much will the Earth's temperature be reduced by if the UK became net zero tomorrow? Simple question.
And the answer, which he just doesn't want to accept, is this. If he just listens, the answer is this. I believe in British leadership. I believe in Britain's ability to make a difference. And the truth is, when we, as I said in my statement, when we passed the Climate Change Act, 60 countries followed. When we legislated for net zero, many other countries followed. He talks Britain down. I believe in Britain.
So, Alex, there he is, not answering the question. In fact, really struggling about what he doesn't. The answer. He doesn't want to hear it, and then doesn't give an answer. And then he includes a total lie. When we passed the Climate Change Act, 60 countries follow. Name a single country that did that. You can't, because not a single country did. He's actually lying there. This idea that this sort of hair shirt nonsense that we subject this country to, you know, going back to sort of living in mud huts so we can save the planet, even though we produce less than 1% of the world's carbon emissions, that the reason for this is old Xi Jinping over in China is having sleepless nights because we are so good about the climate and he's not. It's absolute nonsense. So he's trying to justify his policies by saying when we put in more windmills and solar panels, 60 countries across the world follow. It's just not true. And also, this not answering the question, it's just so infuriating. And his plans, his mad plans, are going to cost this country about £800 billion for what? This guy's going to ruin us. He really is.
Yeah, he is going to ruin us. I mean, I think people are waking up to this now. You know, HSBC, the bank, have dropped all the net zero targets and said, we're not doing it. This is dreadful for the economy. That's a massive news story. This is one of the biggest banks on the planet. Suddenly go, now we're not doing net zero anymore. It'll be interesting to see who else follows suit. And that should be on the front pages everywhere. But of course, it's not. The Labour Party have never answered a single question yet, have they? They didn't answer any questions in the run-up to the election at all because the journalists didn't want to ask them because most of the legacy media were just so excited about having a left-wing government, so they better not challenge them, let alone that absolute tool who was messing around on that jet ski, stupid Ed Davey. There's been an absolute lack of accountability, and there is to this day. And notice, actually, when anyone asks anything of Sir Keir Starmer at the dispatch box, his answer for a long time now has been Liz Truss, for crying out loud. That's his answer to everything.
To everything, that's right. That's right.
Crying lady Lego head has crashed the economy even worse, so he's got to use it as a distraction technique. But, you know, net zero is a disaster for this country. People are waking up to it. What I would like to be asked is, remember when people said what would happen by 2020? I remember all the islands that were supposed to be meters under the ocean now by 2025. Remember the burning fires that were going to wipe out half of Africa, and the famines and the starvation and the coastal erosion? Remember all those things? Oh yeah, that hasn't happened. We've had a nice summer this year. Great, because last summer it was pretty rubbish. I remember it. It's nice being able to have a bit of a tan at this time of year and farmers to actually be able to grow stuff, because last year was a total washout. Because guess what? That is how weather works. It varies, and it has done since time immemorial. And it is not worth us as a little island nation flagellating and destroying our economy and writing massive charity checks to Xi Jinping in China over something that most countries are not doing, especially the big emitters.
That's exactly right. And but what see, this is the new Marxism. Ed Miliband is basically, like his dad, a Marxist, and his left-wing stick to beat the people over the head with is net zero, green zealotry, utter green zealotry. It's the new way. Now, he's not a very sophisticated man. His new ploy is to say, if you don't follow my net zero plans, you're not patriotic, eh? But what do you think about his mate, Dale Vince? You know, that strange little man who wears a scarf around his neck as if he's Palestinian or something. He's a climate billionaire or something. Anyway, you know what these socialists are like? They're very liberal, aren't they? They're decent people. Dale thinks that anyone who fails to agree with all of this climate change nonsense, in other words, what they call climate deniers. You know, people like you and me, Ed Miliband and Dale Vince they call us climate deniers, not purely because we're sceptical about everything that Miliband is doing, all this money he's wasting, all this industry he's ruining for dubious scientific reasons. So we're just skeptics. Well, Dale Vince thinks that people like us should be sent to prison.
Yeah, it's terrifying.
That it should be against the law to be what he calls a climate denier. Unbelievable.
Yeah. It's terrifying, and I wouldn't be surprised if the Labour government suck it up, because they love stuff like that. You know, law on Islamophobia, a law on climate denial. It's terrifying because, you know, science is not fixed. It never has been. It never will be. And science needs debate and recourse and challenging, because that is what it's all about. Advancement and enterprise and discovery and innovation often mean mistakes are made along the way, and we learn as we go. And there are plenty of things throughout history. We can even look at the way we approach things like the COVID pandemic to see that we messed up severely because we followed the science, because science isn't set, okay? And what alarms me about this attitude towards climate change is that it's turning it into a neo-religion. It's almost like paganism. Yeah. And I wouldn't be surprised at all if this Labour government drag us into some sort of legislation where you're not allowed to talk about whether or not climate change is real. Already, I would imagine in universities, if you turn around and go, oh, I want to sort of do some research into the melting polar ice cap to prove that climate change is cataclysmic, you'll be given a big grant. If you turn around and say, do you know what, I actually want to write a big research paper on whether we've got this science right in the first place, you will probably be thrown out of your university. So in many respects, I think this sort of grim stuff is already probably taking place in our academic institutions.
Let's reiterate, because it's important to stress this. Everything Miliband is doing, building more and more what you call windmills, more and more solar panels, more and more green schemes, £22 billion carbon capture scheme in Liverpool, a lot of old nonsense, just reducing our industry, cancelling all exploration in the North Sea. All of this is damaging us dreadfully. And if we question it, we are now going to be criminalised. Now, the problem here is that Ed Miliband is wrong. He is just wrong. And if Keir Starmer doesn't wake up and get rid of this guy, honestly, Alex, it doesn't bear thinking about. Ed Miliband is going to take this country to hell in a handcart, isn't he?
Yeah, he's a one-man unexploded time bomb for the economy. I mean, forget old sad sack Lady Lego head. Ed Miliband's far more dangerous than her, and that takes some doing. I mean, also, I think something that the media really needs to start looking into is whether or not members of his family might be doing very well out of green industries, because that's what I have heard. I don't know how true that is, but it's worth finding out.
Well, Dale Vince does very well out of it. That's for damn sure.
Exactly. A lot of people do. And so when he says, oh, you're not patriotic and all the jobs and all the money, what? Whose money? Whose jobs? Because as far as I can tell, we're the ones paying, and other people who probably aren't in this country but are big business owners in places like Beijing are the ones coining it. Not us, not me and you, Kev. Not us with the highest energy bills in the world, which has decimated our industry and our manufacturing.
In the world, 5 times more expensive than America. It is crazy, Alex. I've got to go, but that was a fantastic half hour, as you would expect with the great Alex Phillips. When we come back, we're going to be joined by former government advisor James Price. Looking forward to that. Stay tuned.
across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on the app, on your mobile, the home of common sense. This
welcome back for the next half hour. I'm very pleased to be joined by former government advisor James Price. Welcome, James.
Hello, my friend. How are you?
I'm very, very well. I want to go around the houses a bit. First of all, I want to talk about the water companies in just a little while. There's a hosepipe ban on this after Thames Water a couple of years ago. They leaked 200 billion litres of water. And then they kind of blame it on us. Well, you can't water your garden, can you? Hosepipe ban. It's like, why don't you sort your company out and stop banning us from watering our roses? It gets on my nerves. We'll talk about that in just a little while, because the salaries that the people who run these basket case water companies, their salaries are eye-watering. It doesn't make any sense to me. But can I just get your take before we get on to that, James, on this extraordinary story that has just broken in the last couple of hours, the fact that this government, the British government, Tories and now Labour, for the last 23 months, best part of 2 years, have been running a secret people smuggling operation out of Afghanistan. 18,500 so far, about 24,000 total slated, so still some to come. And this was predicated on the fact that some bozo accidentally leaked the details of 100,000 Afghanis who helped the British during the Afghanistan war. So their lives are at risk from the Taliban. So what we've been doing under a news blackout is mind-boggling stuff. The British, apparently the SAS, people like that, have been going into Afghanistan and gathering up these Afghani people who helped the British during the war and secreting them into Pakistan by a secret route that we're not allowed to know about, but I'm assuming it's across the Khyber Pass or something like that. Anyway, they end up in Pakistan, whereupon we've been flying them, thousands of them, to Brize Norton, you know, the RAF base here, in big transporter planes, and this is still going on. Now, that in itself is extraordinary enough, and the reason we've done it is because this nation has accepted that our uselessness put these people's lives at risk, because we accidentally leaked all the data on who these people who helped the British were. So, okay, we're doing the right thing, you might argue. You might not argue that, but there's an argument there. This has been going on, but where I take issue with this entire story is that when this egregious balls-up emerged, and the British started this massive ongoing airlift, they threw a veil of secrecy over it. They took out a super injunction so that the media was not allowed to report it. It's only today, 23 months after this super injunction was taken out, that John Healey, the current Defence Secretary, to his credit, just said, I don't see the reason for this. The people have a right to know. But by what right did the then Tory government and the subsequent Labour government, by what right do they think they had the right to keep the public in the dark? And apparently MPs were kept in the dark as well. This is a scandal.
It absolutely is a scandal, and it's hard to know really where to begin with any of it. I mean, I suppose we should start by trying to, what they say in debating, to steel man the one side of it. You know, do we have a responsibility, given that it was the mistake of a British civil servant in doing this, to try and rectify it? Yes, to some extent, I think we should look to make some kind of amends for that kind of mistake. The extent of that amends is, I think, up for debate, and probably should have been up for debate in somewhere like the House of Commons, where our leadership resided, rather than being made by a clutch of people behind closed doors. Do we think that these people were in real risk of danger? I don't know. I don't know. I suspect that given all the other problems that we've had in these area of human rights, that if there was the slightest scintilla that the toenail of their little toe was going to be harmed, then the human rights legislation and lawyers would say, actually, we've got to go and give them, massive mansions in the Cotswolds or whatever. That's how bad and how low faith I've got in that bit of the system. But when we take the whole thing in the round, I think the two bits that really scare me, one in terms of the impact on the ground for this country, is that Afghans, I'm afraid to say, not all of them, but statistically, Afghans are something like more than 50 times more likely than your average Brit to commit some kind of heinous sexual crime. And that's the case here. It's the case across Europe as well. So what we've done is let in an awful lot of people. We don't know a huge amount about them. Just the fact they've appeared on this list doesn't mean they've necessarily gone through all the right kind of vetting, that they're the next Shakespeare or anything. So there's a material risk on the ground. And as you say, the scandal part of it, Kev, the other bit of it is the fact that this has all just been hidden from people. This has not just been ministers, especially it's been mostly officials, I think, and soldiers, but then a judge went and upgraded the injunction that was requested up to a super injunction, the difference being that people like yourself are not even allowed to report that there was any injunction going on. So it just seems that every little bit of the state has colluded to prevent the British people from knowing that quite a dangerous thing was being done to them, supposedly in their name, and heads, I'm afraid, must roll for this.
Yeah, I think so, because MPs have been kept in the dark as well. There's even suggestions that Parliament over this 23 months has been misled on this issue. I'm afraid that in a Western democracy, a free speech democracy like Britain, you can't operate like this. You can't say, oh, well, this is a bit embarrassing. Better make sure the people don't find out about this. There's some sort of argument, oh, well, it's all about keeping the Afghanis safe. That's rubbish. That's rubbish. I know why this super injunction was brought in. It was to spare the government's blushes. Labour have done the right thing late in life, but don't forget, for a year, they've been presiding over this as well. So they've got questions to answer as well, haven't they?
Yeah, absolutely right. I just think that it's so stupid for Labour not to, on day one when they hear all of this stuff, just to have some big press conference the Monday after the election and say, oh, blimey, you never know what's been going on here on the other lot's watch. Yeah. Here you go and get it all out. Because the fact is that most of them will agree with this sort of thing. And the most of them would think, oh, brilliant. If there's a precedent now that other previous governments had used super injunctions, or the courts had let them use super injunctions, and that was spaffing huge amounts of money without the public having any scrutiny or knowledge whereof, brilliant, because we'll do it ourselves in the future. It'd be interesting, I suppose, in the coming days to see exactly why it's come out when it has. I think maybe it's the Times finally winning the kind of legal challenge over it, and good for them for doing so. But the fact that it's gone on for this long, to put it in context, by the way, the quantum, the amount of money, is about £2 billion more than the whole putative savings from that big Labour brouhaha of the other week of the welfare savings. So it's an absolutely eye-watering sum of money with no scrutiny whatsoever. And the other question, of course, is, did these numbers of these people coming in, were they accounted for in the net increase figures? Because we've already saw, or were they kept off the books there as well?
Yeah, as I said earlier in the show, I mean, the migrant crisis just got a whole lot worse. And you're right to question the nature of these people coming in under this scheme, because it is actually a fact, the Mail has reported this, that there are several sex offenders in Afghanistan who are on this list of people who helped the British during the Afghanistan war. Now, they've previously been refused any right to come to this country, but under this scheme, the death list scheme, if you like, they've been allowed to come. So there are some serious issues surrounding the kind of people that have been let in under this operation, what do they call it, Rubicon or something? Rubicon, I think it is, yeah.
Yeah, we'll rue the day, I think, with it. One of the bits that gets me, and this will take a second perhaps to unpack, the Scottish Enlightenment philosopher David Hume doesn't get mentioned enough these days.
He really doesn't. He really doesn't.
He?
Used to be in the press all the time, didn't he? But he's fallen away a bit, yeah.
Well, dying does that, I
gather he's in line to be the new host of MasterChef, is that right? Well, there's certainly vacancies going there, but...
Whether or not David Hume wears pants or not is going to be up in eternal debate. Hume said you cannot derive an ought from an is, which means you don't have a moral responsibility to do something that you cannot do. And where I want to put this in context here is there'll have been officials, civil servants, and people saying, look, we've got to go and get these people out because otherwise they might be at risk from the Taliban. Okay, fair enough. They then get moved here, and because, as we know statistically, Afghans are, whatever it was, more than 50 times more likely to commit some of these really heinous crimes and really struggle to integrate in Britain, given that we've got lots and lots of other people, millions and millions who come here who haven't been integrating and who have been causing great social problems, let alone crimes and all the rest of it. By doing this, we haven't just perhaps stopped there being pain and suffering in Afghanistan overall. What we've possibly done is brought the pain and suffering that was going to happen there over to our shores. And that's a complicated moral and philosophical debate that, again, needs to have been had in the Houses of Parliament and in the press and in every pub up and down the land. And we've been robbed of a chance to work out a better kind of outcome from this obviously difficult situation by the fact that there was a super injunction out about it. And when you see the kind of broiling social tension that is cropping up now, Ballymena the other week, not been reported on very much, but there was conflict in Epping over the weekend.
Some big trouble going on in Epping, yes.
Right, and again, around recent arrivals and attacks on local girls and all these sorts of things. You see the similar kind of things happening in France, see it happening in Spain very recently as well, really nasty scenes. Trying to just put a lid on this stuff and distract people isn't going to work, and it's just going to make us hit boiling point. And that, plus the kind of economic meltdown that Labour are causing at the moment, I think this summer could be really, really unpleasant for the United Kingdom. I hope I'm wrong, but I think things could get really nasty really fast. And I think we're fooling ourselves if we're being complacent that it won't be Southport over again, but much, much bigger.
I totally agree with you. And secrecy is never the way. It's never the way. In Portsmouth, the local council there is under investigation because a local asylum seeker stood accused of raping a local girl, and the council put out an APB. Don't anyone tell anyone. You by all means mention the rape, but don't say that it was allegedly committed by an asylum seeker. So they threw a veil of secrecy over that. Now they're under investigation, and we understand similar situations have happened in London and Manchester. So the way to deal with our escalating migrant crisis and all that it entails in terms of some of the people we're letting in that we don't really know much about, potential for sex crimes, the way to deal with that, James, is not secrecy. That is absolutely the textbook way not to deal with this, and yet it seems we're doing it. There may be trouble ahead, as you say. I hope there isn't, but I fear another summer of discontent. Listen, let me ask you, we need to go to break fairly soon, but we've got about 5-6 minutes, so I wanted to ask you about this anyway, so we do have time. This comes under the headline, if you were working at the Sun or something like that, it would be water disaster. It's the sick joke that Thames Water, the biggest water company in the country, is now imposing a hosepipe ban on millions of customers. This happens every year. I know I'm a Thames Water person for my sins. And you hosepipe ban, water, we've got to save water. Well, for the year 2023 to 24, so the sort of most recent year they kept records of this, Thames Water was the worst performer of any water company, leaking a staggering 200 billion litres. Boasting, by the way, that was our lowest ever leakage. Brilliant, well done. This sinking water firm supplies 16 million people in London and the South East. Today, in its annual report, we learned it is submerged in an annual loss of £1.6 billion, and in fact is sitting on an ocean of £19 billion worth of debt. It is a basket case. I know, I'm one of their customers. It's not a great company to be a customer of, I'm here to tell you. The chief executive of Thames Water, he earns £850,000. That's his basic salary. And last year he got a £195,000 bonus. What do you think the bonus was for?
It's a very, very good question. I mean, that's a pretty tasty sum of money for anybody, isn't it? When you consider the Prime Minister is on about 150,000, something like that.
Yeah.
It's a pretty penny more.
Yeah.
I mean, I suppose at one point, I take the point about the losses and the debt and all the rest of it. If I just go around there to my tap and I can get clean, fresh drinking water at a tiny cost, really, and the fact that that one company does that for 17 million people, despite the debts piling up and despite all those leaks and everything, it is kind of a miracle of the modern world. And I do appreciate that every time I try and take a glass of water or have a shower or something, how lucky we are to have that. So having given them that kind of small bit of grace, I'll now come and join you and stick the boot in a little bit.
Welcome aboard.
It is astonishing when you hear about those sorts of leaks and everything else. I do think that a lot of that is still the legacy of underinvestment from the time when it was nationalised and still having to catch up with all of that. And because we were so early in good sewage systems, we've got a lot of catching up to do. Still bits of the Victorian infrastructure network that still kind of work, even though they're creaking under it in terms of sewage and things like that, is again another miracle, and how amazing Britain was that we were building things to last that long back in the past. The big problem, of course, is that going back to our planning system, that we've been unable to get reservoirs built. We're a pretty, rainy island on occasion, although not for the last little while, admittedly, and it's certainly a very wet and temperate one. The fact that we're having any kind of rationing of water at all is bonkers. It's completely bonkers. I think we're having to get water from Norway or somewhere like that at the moment, and it's because we don't build enough reservoirs, because stupid idiots like Lib Dem MPs come on and whinge about it because they're nasty little NIMBYs who don't want anything to be built ever. And that, I'm afraid, is the root cause of the problem. Even if the CEO of Thames Water is an idiot, even if there's all these leaks and everything, none of that would matter if we could just have a few more reservoirs built. They're beautiful looking things. I don't understand the problem. And we've got to get out of the mindset of thinking that we can afford not to have crucial national infrastructure like that, I'm afraid.
I mean, the CEO of Thames Water is called Chris Weston. I'm sure he's not an idiot, but I take your point. No, seriously, it's not that someone running these big companies doesn't require a decent salary. They do, but he gets 850 quid, 1,000 with a bonus over £1 million. The guy who runs Affinity, the Affinity Water Company, he just had his salary doubled to £1.6 million. He was on about 780,000 or something. And the person who runs Severn Trent Water Company, which is a very big company, gets £3.3 million a year. My point is, every person in the country, we're all customers of water companies, every single one of us will say what a lousy, over-expensive service we get. And we see all the leaks, we see the mess everywhere you go. There are vans mending pipes, causing all the road everywhere you go. And they all admit, oh yeah, we've got this sort of Victorian infrastructure problem and we've got to improve it and all that. So, all of that taken on board, the question has to be, after all that, why does somebody warrant a £3.3 million salary? Why does the guy who runs Thames Water, an absolute catastrophe of a company, get a £195,000 bonus? Why does he earn more than £1 million? It's the money that these people are getting. And here is, for what it's worth, my kind of fear about all this is, I'm constitutionally massively against nationalisation in all its forms. Privatisation is the way forward. However, the problem with water companies, and people say, we've got to nationalise them. I almost begin to say, well, perhaps you've got a point there, because if you run water companies as private companies, which we do, the thing about the CEO, the chief executive, his loyalty, his or her job is not to serve the customers, it's to serve the shareholders. So the CEO's job is to keep the profits up, not necessarily to make the water company very, very efficient and to do a good job with the customers. Do you see what I mean? There's a kind of a contradiction, an inherent contradiction here. This might be the problem.
I know what you're tempted to get at there, comrade, in this.
Yeah,
but
what are we doing here?
But I'll be the first up against the wall when you and Corbyn launch your revolution against us.
Yeah. Me and Jez are like that. Yeah.
I think that one of the easy things to do would be to make more people in the country shareholders of these companies, so you all get a vested stake in it. And I'd love to have a kind of share-owning democracy where people can write in and have sort of mass movements of saying, if it's a public company, we want to move it in this direction or that direction. Of course, the real culprit, as I said before, with the reservoirs not being built, which is the biggest problem, though who's getting in the way of that? It's the state. And I'm with Ronald Reagan, who says that if you put the government in charge of the Sahara Desert, pretty soon there'd be a shortage of sand. And what I would love to just see is a much more, that bonus bit that you talked about there, either whether it's the board or shareholders at an annual general meeting or a government bill, whatever it may be, let's just have a huge revolution of performance-related pay right across the country, and whatever job we're in, as your ratings continue to go up, Kev, you get paid more money. If the economy gets better, Rachel Reeves can have a bonus. If the economy gets worse, she has a pay cut. I think that would be the way to do this, because as economists will know, you show me the incentives and I'll show you the outcomes. So where you're right is that if the incentives are misaligned, no matter if it's a water company or anywhere else, you're going to get rubbish results. If the incentives are right, then boom, you have victory, you have success, and you have growth. And we don't have any good incentives right now in Britain.
Absolutely right. I like what you said about my show. The ratings do indeed keep going up. As for my money, not so much. Right, let's go to break. When we come back, I want to talk about what I've called the battle against Britishness. We'll talk about that after this break.
I think that you're best combating things like anti-Semitism when you have free speech. People can criticise governments, they can criticise the actions of a particular state, and obviously there's a lot going on in the Middle East at the moment that people will be concerned about. But that is one thing. What you can't then do is go and pick on Brian at the water cooler at lunchtime in your workplace and have a go at him for something that might have nothing to do with him whatsoever because he's a Jew.
Is talk across the UK on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Yeah, I've headlined this little section, the battle against Britishness, still with former government advisor James Price. James, the first story I want to talk about, Julia Hartley, it's in The Sun today. Julia Hartley-Brewer had this dad on her show earlier. It's shocking, really. This is a 12-year-old girl called Courtney Wright. And it was her school, the Bilton School in Rugby in Warwickshire, was having a diversity day. You know, because it's great that schools have diversity. We used to have a lot of them when I was at school. Instead of my teacher said, "Well, diversity day." They go, "What?" Then
one Welsh lad counts as a diversity.
Yeah, that's right. No, they clipped me round the ear. I'd have been hit during my days, and quite rightly so, to be honest with you. No, we don't encourage corporal punishment at school. Capital punishment, I do encourage. But seriously, let's talk about Courtney Wright. So, Year 7 pupil. This was Diversity Day, so she decided, as you can see from this picture, to celebrate Britishness. And she put on a Union Jack dress, and she wrote a speech. She was looking forward to reciting it, delivering it to her fellow pupils. It was celebrating tea, Shakespeare, fish and chips, and the Royals. Carol's a straight-A student, by the way. Anyway, the head teacher told Courtney, "No, you can't make a speech. And by the way, you can't wear that Union Jack dress. There's a second-hand uniform down the road, down the corridor. You can put that on if you want." She calls her dad, who was furious. And her dad went, Stuart Field, he's 47, there you can see him there, went to pick her up from school. And demanded an explanation for this. The school has now said it's very, very sorry for any upset that was caused, and they do concede this could have been handled better. But think about this, 12-year-old kid, Diversity Day, wants to read a poem or make a little speech about Shakespeare and tea and fish and chips, and she basically gets treated like a sort of mini criminal or something. What is going on?
Where to even begin with something like this? Firstly, why do we have a diversity day in schools? I thought the point was to try and make everybody the same and to not have to worry about these things, because I can tell you that in all the academic literature, the only way that you can have a successful multi-racial, multi-ethnic society is if you downplay those sorts of things and you try and highlight all the things that people have in common with one another. So at the same time as talking all about how great diversity is and how terrible it is to be a white Brit and all these sorts of things, what we're actually doing is stoking up the roots of a lot more deep, nasty ethnic tension down the line. We're seeing that in other countries in Europe. We're starting to see it, unfortunately, here. And again, there's this silly idea that you can't be racist unless you're a white person, which is obvious nonsense. And we've seen different sets of minorities across Britain fighting each other on these things. That rant aside, this lovely girl who, as you say, straight-A student, wants to go and celebrate her culture. I think I've read the speech. I think it's already been doing the rounds on Twitter. Seems very good to me, better than anything I could have written when I was 12.
Yeah.
Wanting to celebrate this at a time when every child is told that Britain is almost uniquely evil and terrible in the world, maybe second worst only to the United States of America for the horrible crimes of letting people live the lives they want to live and have freedom and run businesses and all those sorts of terrible, evil things. Much better to be like the mad mullahs of Iran, right? Yeah. Absolutely incredible, this story.
Yeah, and the head teacher said to Courtney, well, look, here's the problem. This is Diversity Day. And you've come all British and you want to make... This isn't a day for Brits or Britishness. This is for all the others. That's what she said.
It's just complete nonsense, right? What is Britain if not already an amalgam of several different nations, right? It's already a kind of story of the coming together of England and Wales and Scotland and Northern Ireland. And when you think about the flag that this girl was wearing, how many races and how many religions and nationalities fought proudly for hundreds of years under that flag, knowing that that flag meant liberty, it meant freedom. It was underneath that flag of the Royal Navy went round ending the slave trade at the cost of thousands of brave literally Brits and other people's lives. We went around and cost lots of blood and treasure to the first people in all of human history to think, slavery is bad, it's so bad that we're going to end it. It was in the Second World War when we fought against the biggest evil we've ever seen. There were people from all different colours and creeds, again, fighting under that flag. If that's not a story of diversity that we should be telling children, then nothing is. And I'm sorry to get so mad about it, but this is every mad conspiracy theorist out there saying they're trying to destroy our country and replace Britishness and all the rest of it. They keep getting proven right. And it feels like I'm taking crazy pills every time you read one of these stories.
No, they are proved right. And here's another story we must discuss fairly briefly. But this is the rewarding of a guy with an MBE who I don't think really deserved it. His name is Mubin Hussain. He's a Muslim community leader in South Yorkshire. And during the height of the Rotherham grooming scandal, the rape gang scandal, he called on Muslims to sever ties with the police force and take all the necessary action to protect ourselves. This was in October 2015, and this was all part of the force's failure, the police force's failure there to investigate thousands of allegations of abuse and rape in the area. Mubin Hussein's campaign group warned any Muslim groups or institutions in Rotherham that do not adhere to this policy of disengagement, that means not helping the police, not cooperating with the police who are trying to find out who's been raping and sexually abusing and torturing vulnerable young girls, many of them underage. He said that any groups or institutions in Rotherham that do not adhere to this policy of disengagement will also be boycotted by the Muslim community. He told the BBC what motivated him here. It was, he said, first and foremost, the police's pernicious lie that it had failed to act on grooming allegations because of fears of being called racist. That, you know, that was not a pernicious lie. That was the truth. That was the whole problem. So this guy, for this is what he did in 2015. He has just been, and again, you couldn't make this up, he has just been awarded an MBE for, and I quote, services to integration and cohesion. It's just unbelievable, isn't it?
You know, I'm not often less speechless, but I don't understand why these people who live in this country afford all the benefits and freedoms and wonder that people living in this country get, and they spend their lives just ranting and raving about how evil Britain is, how ghastly all of us Brits are, oh, the police is racist, oh, this is terrible, but they'll take all the benefits, which I mean both in both senses of the word. Mm-hmm. They'll take the nice bit of tin that says, I remember the British Empire, by the way, and yet they'll use it to keep on campaigning about how evil all of our institutions are and how everything's got to be torn to the ground. Well, I quite like what Britain has been for historically. I think it's been a pretty great place to live. I don't want to see any of it change, certainly not in the direction that people like him want it to be moved. And if they don't like it here, there are plenty of other places for them to go because it's all getting a bit too tiresome for me now.
But what do? We reward this guy.
Yeah.
This guy who said, don't talk to the police, don't cooperate with the police, they're liars. These were the coppers, probably the few decent coppers in those days, who were genuinely trying to get to the bottom of what was happening to these poor, vulnerable young girls, many of them underage. This guy, Mubin Hussain, is busy telling the Muslim community, don't talk to the police, don't cooperate. In other words, stymieing this very important investigation. And what have we done years later? We've awarded him an MBE for services to integration and cohesion. You might argue that that is exactly the opposite of what he was doing.
Yeah, absolutely right. By the way, one thing to be said in this guy's favour is, given the scale of the rape gang scandal across so many towns and cities right across the country, you know, if you look at places like Bradford and Rotherham, the scale of men involved in it in these communities is so high that actually his advice not to talk to the police probably quite sensible, because if the police do talk to them, they'll end up perjuring themselves, protesting their innocence at the terrible crimes that many of them we now know have done, and the national inquiry will prove that they have done. So maybe they were wise not to talk to the police, or else the police might have put them in prison even sooner.
Yeah, it still does not detract from the fact that this guy doesn't deserve an MBE. That's half the problem with this country, James, is, you know, we reward enemies of the state, you know, because if we don't, of course, we'll be Islamophobic or racist. It is insane. But it's been brilliant to talk to you for the last brilliant 30 minutes. Thank you so much, James. Always a pleasure. Government Advisor James Price there. Right, we're going to go to break now. When we come back, we'll take a couple of calls. I'll read a couple of messages. Lots coming in, lots to talk about, as you can imagine. The migrant crisis, as I said, just got worse. Guess what? There's nearly 20,000 Afghanis living in the country, paid for by us, that we didn't even know were here. They were brought here secretly under a cloak of secrecy. We, the little citizens of this country, even MPs, we weren't allowed to know about this. Who the hell do these people think they are? We are allowed to know. We should have been allowed to know. This is a free country. If governments start acting like this in secret, then we're in trouble. That's how they operate in places like North Korea and Russia and China. We don't want that, do we? 0344 499 1000. That next. Stick around.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. I've got a quick message here, text message from Steve V. He said that he'd like to explain to me, Kevin, how this Afghani airlift situation, how this is different. I'd like to explain that these people don't want to be here. That's dubious, Steve. A lot of them did. They want to be in their homes in their own country, but we have put them at high risk. Well, many of them were already, mate. They really were, because the Taliban were pretty cognizant of who it was cooperating with the British during the war. So many of them were at risk before this list. But I agree with you, because we managed to stage this extraordinary bungling data breach leak of all the lists on this name, then yeah, perhaps we do have some kind of responsibility towards them. But it's still going to be quite a debating point as to whether or not 25,000, or the best part of 25,000 people, should come to this country from Afghanistan secretly. That is what this story is all about. You could say maybe we owe some responsibility to these people. Fair enough. But I tell you what is not acceptable, Steve. It is not acceptable that the government, successive governments, threw a veil of secrecy over this very important issue, this very important situation. You cannot keep the people in the dark about this kind of thing. This is not North Korea. This is Great Britain, and we better watch out. That's where the hell is to pay. It is for keeping this secret. Let's go quickly to the phones. Let's talk to Herbie in Harrow. Always a pleasure, Herbie. How are you doing? Hang on, he's dropped. He was there. We'll get him back. Yes, we'll talk to Jake Wallace-Simon soon, former editor of the Jewish Chronicle, very prominent Jewish author and writer, journalist. I want to talk to him about this new anti-Semitism report, which reveals that British society, particularly the arts, university, the NHS, is saturated with anti-Semitism, according to this shocking new report. We'll talk about that in just a little bit. In the meantime, we've got Herbie back. Hi, Herbie. How are you doing?
Good evening, Kevin. Very well, thank you. Kevin, I'll tell you what, we're heading for a complete and utter crisis. With the Afghanistan migrants coming over now, God knows how many thousands, with the rapists that are taken because they're asylum seeker, we can't know about anything. If they keep all these things secret, it's only going to come out, and when it does, it's going to have the biggest backlash that the government would ever see. It's got to. Yeah, well, this Afghanistan situation, I just started debating with one of my correspondents, saying, we have a responsibility to these people. I think there's an argument there. I mean, I'm uncomfortable about letting 25,000 Afghans in just like that. But I kind of accept that we leaked their details to the Taliban by mistake. We have a kind of duty to try to look after them. But what the scandal here is not so much that. It is that the government tried to keep this secret, and Labour can't turn around. I mean, John Healey, the Defence Secretary, did the right thing today. He just said, right, I'm lifting this super injunction. I don't understand why the public can't know about this. He did the right thing. But that begs the question, why have Labour continued this super injunction for the year that they've been in power? So the Tories, 23 months ago, brought that in, kept it a secret. Labour carried on the secret. What the hell do these governments think they're playing at? Well, look, the less that people know, the better it is their attitude, Kevin. And the problem is that when people are told, don't tell the rapist is an asylum seeker, that is out of what we have a right to know what is going on with our society.
You're damn right, Herbie.
What is going on in our society? We need to know. There's a problem, we need to address it, we need to cure it, we need to deal with it. We don't need it to be hushed up, because when it gets hushed up, it gets worse and worse, and the backlash, I'll tell you, Kevin, will be astronomical.
I think you're absolutely right. I mean, I think probably what may have just started and may get worse is a kind of all of this secrecy surrounding sex offences by asylum seekers. Suddenly we learn that the best part of 19,000 Afghanis have been secretly shipped into this country, and we do know, Herbie, that among those Afghanis are several sex offenders who were previously refused entry, but because their lives are now at risk, we've let them come in. So the more we keep this kind of thing secret, the more the pressure cooker builds up, and trust me, Herbie, it will explode. You can't operate government in a Western democracy by secret. If the people find out they're being lied to, which is essentially what we are being lied to, they won't like it and they will erupt. I hope it doesn't happen, but I think there could be trouble ahead this summer. I hope not, but you never know. Herbie, great to talk to you as usual. Better go. So that's Herbie in Harrow. Let's go to break now, and we'll talk to Jake Wallace-Simon about this new anti-Semitism report when we come back.
Because it is a public body, and we all have to pay for it in theory anyway through our license fees, and it's it's not a private institution where, for instance, if say ITN or ITV or News Corporation, which is ultimately your owners, if they lose lots of money, well, that's their problem. Whereas here you are talking about sort of public money in terms of the license fee, and so that is a consideration.
I think
across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. There's a new report on anti-Semitism, the scourge of anti-Semitism in this country. It has been compiled by former government minister, former Defence Secretary Penny Mordaunt, and also former Labour MP, now Lord John Mann. This has found that Jew hatred is pervasive in this country, in the arts, universities, and the NHS. This is a government-backed report, but it was commissioned by the Board of Deputies of British Jews. The reporter has, of course, found it unacceptable that the October the 7th Hamas atrocity has led counterintuitively, really, to an onslaught of anti-Semitism. I still can't get my head around that. Let's talk to former Jewish Chronicle editor and now big columnist at the Telegraph, journalist, writer, author, Jake Wallace-Simons. Welcome, Jake.
Good evening. Hi.
Deal with that first of all. I mean, I know it's an issue that crops up all the time, but it still confuses me. On October the 7th, the worst atrocity against the Jews that since the Holocaust unfolds in all its horror. 1,200, 1,300 innocent Jewish people, children, women, men, slaughtered, women raped, babies put in ovens, etc., etc. The worst atrocity imaginable. And in this country, that has led to this onslaught of anti-Semitism. Why?
Very good question. I think part of the answer might be that one of the features of anti-Semitism is that it replaces the actual human beings who are Jewish with a sort of cartoon symbol of what Jews might stand for. And what they stand for is always a sinister manipulation of world affairs, rich, sort of controlling the money markets, controlling governments, controlling the media from behind the scenes, and generally corrupting society and bringing all goodness and happiness down. That's what the anti-Semite projects into the image of the Jew. And if you've been labouring under that level of hatred in your unconscious, perhaps, over year after year after year, then when actual horrible terror violence erupts against real-life people, men, women, children, families going about their business in Israel, what you see is not the actual suffering. You've got no empathy for that. You just see the sinister image of the Jew getting their comeuppance. In fact, one of the incidents cited in that report in the NHS was that a GP in 2024 described October the 7th as a welcome punch on the nose. And that's exactly what I'm talking about. He would have looked at the footage, for example, of that poor girl, the German-Israeli girl, Shani Luke, whose half-naked dead body was carted through Gaza on the back of a pickup truck, spat on, beaten, cheered at, jeered by the crowds. And rather than seeing the actual horror of it, a human being being treated in that way, he saw a punch on the nose for the Israelis and one in the eye for the Jews. And that sums it up, I think.
I think it does. I was telling Jonathan Sacerdoti the other day that I was sitting in an outdoor restaurant in Primrose Hill, full of nice, bien pensant, middle-class, well-to-do people. And this guy walks past and he's got a T-shirt on and it just says, F Israel. And he's just walking down this street. And people are actually sort of not. I mean, what is going on, Jay? What is that about?
Well, I think that, Israel, my book is called Israelophobia. And what I was trying to get at with that idea Jews on your T-shirt or anything similar, but you can say F Zionists or F Israel. You can't say that Jews are responsible for manipulating the world into war, but you can say that they're committing a genocide, which is equally a lie. And it's these sorts of acceptable codes that are now the newest form of the oldest hatred. It's back again with different language. Anti-Semitism is a shape-shifting virus. It always changes the language it uses so that the same hatred can pass undetected and everyone accepts it. That's what anti-Semitism is like, and that's what we're seeing again today.
Yeah, I grow tired of, I know quite a few, I'm from North London, and quite a few people just said to me, it's not Jews I'm against, it's Israel I worry about. And that has become a sort of coded cliche for me. I mean, I know quite a lot of Jewish people, and they always say, anybody says to me that it's not Jewish people they have a problem, it's Israel they have a problem, they say, well, I view that person as anti-Semitic. That's unfair possibly to some people, but you know what I'm saying. It is this handy excuse from otherwise liberal people to explain their dislike of Jewish people. It's really weird. Talking of which, let's talk. You just covered the NHS, which is strange. I don't know why that should be quite so anti-Semitic. But the BBC very much in the news today. The annual report's out. Even Tim Davie, the Director General, had to accept that the release of that awful documentary, How to Survive a War Zone, the Gaza thing, not mentioning that the narrator and star of the show happened to be the son of a Hamas government minister, was a heinous mistake. They had to admit that. But what they won't admit, Tim Davie gets very bristled about this. If you say, well, is there just maybe a suspicion that your newsroom, at the Beeb, at Broadcasting House, might be just sort of a bit anti-Semitic, certainly rather anti-Israel. They get really up. No, it's not true. But it is, isn't it? They can't see it.
Well, I'm afraid it is a cultural problem at the BBC, and I say that with a heavy heart because in many ways BBC is a wonderful institution, but in the way it's covered the Gaza war and subsequent and sort of previous wars as well, actually, anything to do with Israel, it's always been characterised by this obsessive focus, this real difference in tone when describing the Palestinian side and the Israeli side, complete double standards, and just this, the whole thing loses its sense of impartiality. And of course, impartiality is really what the BBC is supposed to be all about. And the thing is that the corporation has got impartiality guidelines, which are supposed to keep it from departing from objectivity. But the problem is that you can't hold yourself back from your true instincts for very long before your true instincts will take over from time to time. It's like an alcoholic trying to stop himself from having a drink. It's only going to get so far before he gives in and has just the one, no one will notice, and then goes back again. And that's what the BBC is like, because the problem is that so many of its staff have a particular view, biased view of the Israel-Arab conflict, and they all reinforce each other's worldviews to create this climate that this is just how the world is. And actually, it's not. Not everyone agrees with you. It's not true. It's not how the world is. But that's the impression that the BBC is trying to give us. And the other thing is that I think the BBC, I don't know if you'll agree with this, Kevin, but over recent years has started to see its job not as reporting the facts, but as interpreting the facts for us to prevent people from developing an illiberal view of the world, to encourage us to see things the way the BBC sees things. And that's not really journalism, is it? Journalism is about, here are the facts, here are some different opinions, make your own mind up. Whereas more and more creeping into BBC coverage is see the world how we see it, particularly when it comes to Israel and Gaza.
Yeah, it's Burtism. John Burt came out with this. This is the BBC ethos when it comes to journalism. You decide the headline or the conclusion, what story it is you want to tell, and then you marshal the facts towards that, which is not a healthy system. Lord Mann said that ordinary Jewish Brits are being held to account for what's happening in the Middle East, and their report has found that many Jews are being ostracised in the workplace because of who they are. I mean, again, I've got to ask you, Jake, what on earth is going on? Don't the people of this country see the danger of the route we seem to be descending down?
I think it's important to recognise just how much brainwashing and propaganda the West has been subjected to ever since October the 7th, and before, of course, but particularly since October the 7th. It's been absolutely relentless. The broadcast media has been relentless, with pictures of Palestinians suffering without any sense of context, with a warped account of the casualty figures, with a warped context of where the war came from. Often Hamas aren't even mentioned in reports. Certainly the Israeli account is often ignored. There's brainwashing on social media, brainwashing in all the liberal papers. So anybody who's exposed very much, particularly to the left side of politics and of the media, is going to receive so much brainwashing that they're going to become convinced that the Jews are responsible for genocide. And that's a lie. It's not true. But once you've become convinced that that is the case, and it seems to be backed up by all the pictures that you see because you only see a certain kind of picture, then you begin to hate all Jews, thinking that there's something inside them that makes them enjoy blood and enjoy the deaths of children, which, as we know, is something that started in 1144 in Norwich, the blood libel.
Honestly, I mean, do you think this report will make any difference? I mean, how do we... I mean, this wasn't a problem before October the 7th. I mean, as I say, I live in North London, and, you know, I've quite a few Jewish people are my neighbours, and they're telling me, these are people like in their 60s, are saying, we're thinking of leaving the country. And, you know, and they're not, you know, they're Jewish, but they're British. They've lived here all their life. You know, this is extraordinary. How do we reverse this? How do we get back to some kind of normality and stop disappearing down a very, very dangerous rabbit hole?
Well, actually, I mean, you're right that it's been especially bad since October the 7th, but it certainly was there before. And if you think back to 2021, when Israel had a conflict with Hamas, then it wasn't a war like it is now. But then we had hordes on the streets outside the Israeli embassy. We had hate convoys coming down from the north, shouting through North London about how they're going to rape Jewish women and so on and so forth.
Yeah, I remember.
So it has been getting worse and worse over the years. And actually, and you're right to say that the Jews have been here a long time. The Board of Deputies, which commissioned this report, was set up in the 18th century in Britain. So Jews are proud Brits. You know, my Jewish grandfather fought on D-Day for this country very proudly.
Of course.
You know, and I think that the thing is that what anti-Semitism tells us is not just about the isolated problem of hatred for the Jews.
Gotta go, Jake. The story's over. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Jake Wallace-Simon there.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Right, we're going to be taking your calls for the next hour. So get in touch. 03444991000. Big story of the day is obviously this Afghani airlift, the secret airlift that's been going on for 23 months, best part of 2 years. That the authorities tried to keep us, well, they did keep it a secret from us through the prism of one of those awful super injunctions. The government apparently brought this in for some kind of a reason. Basically, some bozo civil servant accidentally leaked the details of 100,000 Afghanis who apparently helped us during the Afghan war. Now, once the Taliban gets hold of those names and addresses, those people are not safe. Hence, we have been doing our best to get these people out of that country. Now, I guess we do owe them a responsibility. But I'm not sure that the people of this country will be that thrilled by the idea that here comes another 25,000 or so migrants into this already ludicrously overcrowded country. 70 million people, our infrastructure creaking at the seams. So, I get it. It wasn't these people's fault that some idiot Brit caused this data breach, and the Taliban was able to read the names and addresses of everyone who they would see betrayed them during the Afghan war. So they helped us, we helped them. So let me know what you think about it. I mean, I think it's a conflicting story. I'm not happy about 25,000 or so new migrants in this country. But I think I'm more angry that the successive governments, particularly the Tories, they started this, Labour carried on, kept it a secret from us. We're not children. We need to know these things. This is how a democracy with free speech and freedom of expression works. You have to cut the people in on what's happening. We have to know what's happening. And the idea that governments now are throwing, or at least in this instance, through a veil of secrecy over this very important issue, I think is sinister and worrying. That's the question we have to ask. Why was this kept a secret? How dare they, frankly? Here's James from Devon. He's sent me a message. I think he's summing up the sort of confliction that I'm feeling. He says, I'm disappointed. These Afghans and their families took risks to help and support the fight to destroy the evil Taliban. Yeah, it didn't work out that well, did it, in the end? Whether translators or special forces, helping our soldiers. They are the people we should protect and allow here, not the 150,000 undocumented illegals the current government are processing and filtering out into our communities. These are the risks, and these are the risks, and could be the Taliban or ISIS. So these people, some of these migrants we're letting in could be the Taliban or ISIS. That's James from Devon. I get it. I'm conflicted on this one. Let's talk to Tony in Doncaster. Hello, Tony.
Hi, you okay, mate?
Yeah, I'm good, yeah.
Yeah, I'm no bleeding-hearted liberal, but just to back up James's backing, this country has had hundreds of thousands of illegal immigrants coming over, of men of fighting age in the last 2 years. That is absolutely scandalous and ridiculous. If the only issue we've got in this country is bringing Afghan people, and a lot of these will be families, that are protecting British soldiers on this and this occasion only, they're the few people I think should be coming over. Because here's my bigger question. We've allowed people from Eastern European countries, such as Ukrainians, to come over here that have not been protected and put their lives on the line for British soldiers. But these people, because they're a different ethnicity, are welcomed. what did it say about our country when we say to countries, when we go invade their countries like India in 47, Afghanistan, that you put your life on the line, but as soon as there's a problem, we'll abandon you. And here's the last thing on it, and it's probably a joke minor point. We were quite happy to bring over 300 Afghan dogs. There was a big outcry over that on the plane, but we can't bring over 300 Afghan people. They've probably saved our soldiers' lives.
It wasn't just dogs; it was a whole plane full of animals. That was a Penfarthing's animal sanctuary there. Yeah. Right. I mean, I was right behind that. I really liked that idea.
And I agree with you on that one.
Yeah. But that said, I mean, I absolutely take your point. But these people risk their lives, if you like, to help the British operation during the Afghanistan war, and we owe them some kind of responsibility. I agree with that. There is a slight problem, though. This is the caveat, is that we have still let in 18,500 people about whom we don't really know anything. The only thing we know is they helped the Brits during the war. It is known that among the 18,500 we have already let in, there are several sex offenders who previously asked to come to Britain but were refused because of that. They're now being allowed in. So this is not, a completely acceptable situation.
Can I just quickly reply to you back on that?
Yeah.
And on that point, you have every right to say that. But I'm sure you would agree with me that when you think of other countries, and you're right, but that is a pinprick to what is coming over on the boats from Eastern European, and these are people that are coming over that have not. My critical point is this: these people have gone in and put their lives on the line for British forces, such as my wife sat next to me, the Gurkhas, and in India, and we have to support people that supported our soldiers, not the people that come over on boats, and not the Ukrainians and the Russians that don't care less about this country.
Yeah, look, I'm with you, Tony. Just something. I find this whole situation very uncomfortable. Mainly, and I want to get you on this now, the secrecy, the throwing of a veil of super injunction over this entire saga, keeping it a secret, not only from the people of this country, but from a lot of MPs as well. Parliament, we heard today, was misled over this. MPs didn't know about it. The people didn't know about it. Governments can't take a situation like this and say, I'll tell you what, let's not tell the people of this nation about this. They can't do this. That is the real essence of the scandal for me.
Well, is it really, though, Kevin?
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
Well, all right. Well, OK, I'll challenge that one, right? What government information is how many Eastern Europeans are coming over from these countries?
Sorry, say that again.
Right. Have we got a list of how many Ukrainians have come over?
But you're just doing a whataboutery. I am saying that the secrecy, there isn't a super injunction about Ukrainians. There isn't a super injunction about the asylum seekers or the migrants coming across the channel. There was a super injunction thrown over this entire airlift. We've been kept in the dark for two scandalous years. You cannot accept that, Tony. You cannot accept that.
Kevin, can I answer the question? I can accept it because...
you can. You don't mind the government treating you like a child.
Well, excuse me. I'll answer you the question. You've answered me a question. I'll explain why. The reason they'll put a super injunction is these people have actually, unlike Ukrainians and unlike the boat people, have put their lives at risk. If you can give me evidence of Ukrainians and illegal people from Somalia coming over that have gone into back for the British forces, then so be it.
No, you're wrong. I'll tell you why they put a super injunction on it. Because they screwed up. Because it was a massive, great balls up. It was because they stupidly, ridiculously, incompetently leaked all of these details. That's what they didn't want us to know.
Well, Kevin,
Tony, that's why they had put a super injunction on it.
Kevin, before I go, a lot of stuff I agree with you on. But I tell you what, if we have to accept 22,000 people that support British forces, they're the few people I would rather have in our country.
Well, yeah, that's as maybe, but it does not justify secrecy, this kind of secrecy. We had a right to know this was going on. We should have been having this discussion, Tony, 2 years ago when it started, because as citizens of a free country with freedom of speech and freedom of expression, we should have known about it. It is a disgrace that we didn't. You see what I'm saying?
Kevin, freedom's gone in this country. I think you know that.
Yeah, but freedom of expression is very important. But you can't sit back with alacrity and just say it's fine for a government to keep secrets from the people. It isn't.
Well, do we have?
Don't be so. You know, Tony. This has been a good discussion, and I think we're probably mainly on the same side of the fence on most issues. But you can't be supine about allowing a government to keep secrets from the people. You cannot just sit back and say that's okay. It's not okay. It's a disgrace. It's a scandal.
Kevin, I never said that. I said under this individual circumstance, it may be because these people, their lives at risk, protecting British soldiers, and on this situation only, right? I disagree with you. I am totally with you against illegal migrants.
Sure.
All right, Kevin.
Listen, I'm just saying that, Tony. Though. I'm kind of with you on all of this, but I'm just really, really unhappy about this secrecy. I'm not having it. We're not, and they're going to say, "Oh, the reason we put this super injunction on was because of the safety of the people." It isn't. They did it because they screwed up. They tried to keep a secret from us, the most egregious cock-up in history. It literally is the worst data breach ever. So that's why they've done it. But apart from that, Tony, I'm kind of with you. We do owe these people a debt of responsibility. So it's a difficult situation. Good to talk, though, mate. Keep in touch. Tony in Doncaster. I think interesting conversation, that. Let's quickly talk to Grace in London. Hi, Grace.
Hi. I would concur that it's absurd that this girl was reprimanded over her dress.
Courtney, the 12-year-old girl who wanted to make a speech about how great Britain was. We can't have that, can we,
Yeah.
Grace?
And also, I mean, we need Generation Alpha to learn about the history of the Spice Girls. That's really important. I mean, they were around when I was a child, and I don't know enough about pop music from before I was a child, so I'm trying to learn. And I think that young people should learn about the social history of their parents and early generations.
I tend to disagree with you, Grace. I think it's very, very important that we as a nation forget as much as humanly possible about the Spice Girls.
I wasn't a fan myself, to be honest.
Nor was I. I was in America. I didn't even really know who they were.
Yeah, but I think it's a real shame if we're going to penalise kids for doing what I think she was told to do, rather than for anything that's related to behaviour. And also, we need to be able to learn about history, including that of Britain, in a way that's factual and not based on whether we feel ashamed or proud or what have you. There are quite a lot of things in the history of our country that are very unpleasant. Now, we didn't personally do those things. We need to learn the facts about them, and we need to learn things with accuracy and honesty, and we don't need to get all tribal about it. When I look at the flag, I think to myself, well, if you trace it all the way back, ultimately, St George had a cross on his shield, in theory. It's probably largely legend, but he had a cross on his shield because Jesus died on a cross for us. And so I think about, when I see it, the fact that I am sinful and not proud of my country or anything else. I feel gratitude to Jesus when I think about that. But I think we need to learn about the history of Britain in a way that's true.
Well, yeah, which is what this girl was wanting to make a speech about, if I can remember. Tea, Shakespeare, fish and chips, and the royal family. That's what her speech was all about, the essence of Britishness. And she went to school dressed in a Union Jack dress and was told that this was Diversity Day, and this day was for the head teacher said was for all the others. In other words, Britishness was not allowed at Diversity Day. Now, Diversity Day should encompass Britishness as well as all the others, don't you think?
Yeah, it absolutely should. And there is more than those things that she's mentioned that we can learn about, but those are good things. And it doesn't mean that we need to look down on others. There are, unfortunately, quite a lot of people who I observe that do look down on people from other parts of the world, and I see that online.
That is wrong. But what is it? I mean, this is a story about a little kid, a 12-year-old girl, who wanted to make a speech about her country, a kind of patriotic speech about the best things about Britain, and was told, no, there's no place for this. And also, she was told to go down the corridor and put on a second-hand school uniform, get that Union Jack dress off. She chose not to do that. She phoned her dad. Her dad came and picked her up. The school has subsequently apologised and said they didn't handle this well, but their sentiments, I think, are way out of place. You can't treat a little 12-year-old girl like that because she wants to make a speech about her country.
What's happened, obviously, is that some people, they observe some individuals who wave the flag around whilst also being racist. So some people do. They're racist whilst also waving the flag. Some other people observe that and they think, oh, that means the flag is racist. But it's not.
Oh, yeah. It's not association. That's like the St George's Cross, is associated with far-right extremism. That's a perversion of what the flag has come to represent, and we shouldn't go away with that. We should respect the George's Cross because it's St George. We should just respect the Union Jack because it's our national flag. But people will hijack these flags and these symbols for their own political ends, and we should be careful to resist that. Grace, I've got to go because I've got to go to the adverts, but very good to talk to you as always. Thank you very much for the call. Grace in London. Let me know what you think about that girl. Let's talk about little Courtney, wasn't it? This 12-year-old girl goes to her school, Diversity Day, wants to make a speech about tea, Shakespeare, fish and chips and the royal family. She's wearing a Union Jack and she's treated like some kind of criminal. No, you can't do that. Get that Union Jack off. School subsequently apologises, but come on. And all they're saying is, this situation could have been handled better. Well, I mean, I suppose it's all right if schools want diversity days. I don't quite see what the point of them is. Why don't you teach them, like English and maths and history and things like that? What's the point of diversity days, really? But if you want to have them, fine. But diversity means an encompassing of all things diverse. Diversity is supposed to be sort of inclusive, isn't it? If you say you can't be part of Diversity Day because you're wearing a Union Jack dress and you want to make a speech about Shakespeare, then that's not a Diversity Day, is it? It's an exclusivity day where people who want to be patriotic are banned. So that's all wrong, isn't it? Let me know what you think about poor little Courtney and that school. 0344 499 1000. Let's go to break. More of your calls and your messages and your WhatsApp voice notes when we come back.
saying that British leadership does matter. We get a huge amount of global media attention around the world. People see what we're doing. People see if we're making a success of things. That, of course, is opportunities for British businesses, British jobs, for people to follow and buy our technology, follow our lead. But I think more than that, it's a point, what I would add that Ed didn't say is the world has to slash its carbon emissions. The UK is part of the world. And the question you started is, will net zero save the world? Well, will net zero save British lives?
As it is.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. This is Lorraine with a text, WhatsApp text. She says, why are the government gaslighting us again by saying that the far right will stoke riots? Once again, hang on, I've just lost that now. Hold on. Once again, deflect to the far right. No, perhaps it's the stupid, ridiculous behaviour of the government that causes riots. Secrecy is dangerous. You're absolutely right, Lorraine. You're absolutely right. Yeah, they're saying there could be riots because of this Afghan news, the fact that best part of 20,000 Afghanis have been secretly transported into this country from Afghanistan. Extraordinary operation. That they've been secreted out of Afghanistan to Pakistan. I can only imagine that would be across the Khyber Pass or something like that, and then flown back here. And the government said there could be riots, and of course they're talking about some of them are talking about it being the far right. If you go to Epping now, right, well, I don't know what the situation is now, but over the weekend, it was trouble. It certainly wouldn't call it riots. There were demonstrations, there were protests, because the local community are worried about the asylum seeker hotel in their midst. It's called the Bell Hotel. In that hotel was a bloke from Ethiopia who arrived on the 29th of June and within 8 days was charged with 3 sexual assaults. He denies those charges. That said, the local community heard about this. They go, 8 days, 3 charges of... what is going on here? What kind of people are in our midst? They're worried. They're worried. And the more we let more and more people in about whom we don't really know anything, the more this problem is going to rear its ugly head. It's bad enough when migrants come into this country, asylum seekers, and break our laws, are discourteous enough to abuse our generosity by breaking our laws. But when they start breaking our sex crime laws, when they start committing sex assaults and rapes, this is incendiary. This is incendiary. We've had 2 cases recently of asylum seekers or foreigners from different cultures coming into this country, raping women, and both of them saying, raping British women, by the way, both of them saying, well, nobody told me about the cultural differences between my country and Britain. So these guys come here from cultures where the attitude towards rape and sexual assault is different to here. We take a very dim view of it. In places like Afghanistan, maybe not quite so much. So there's your problem. The more of this that happens, the more this country is going to turn into a tinderbox. And if they start saying it's the far right, who are the problem. The far right weren't protesting over the weekend in Epping. These were local residents who were worried for their wives, worried for their daughters, worried for the women of that area, and for that matter, the men. Writing off all protesters about the migrant crisis as far right is pernicious and inaccurate. Shall we let's listen to a WhatsApp voice note. All of the WhatsApp voice notes are on the Afghan migrants. This is Steve.
These people are in very basic accommodation in a world which is very alien to them, and they're scared. They are being given new names, new identities, new bank accounts, etc., etc., which is very different because they supported British services. They worked for us, they helped us. These people deserve a chance. They've done the right thing. Their neighbours who may come over on boats, they're a different thing altogether. Let's not put them all in one bucket.
Yeah, I mean, again, I take your point, Steve. I'm just a bit worried. Rod Liddle made this point. Were there really 100,000 Afghanis helping the British during the Afghanistan war? 100,000? It seems like this list is rather massively extensive. And again, I come back to what was this super injunction for? Why was all of this kept a secret? I mean, yes, of course, you're always going to talk about the safety element for the people on the list. I get that. But that still doesn't necessarily explain why it's being kept a secret. And I just don't approve of secrets being kept from the people of this country by the government of this country. What we got here, this is from Nigel, who feeds into this point. He says, great show, Kev. Thank you, Nigel. How many super injunctions are being kept from us that you know and you are not allowed to talk about? That's an interesting question. If you'd have asked me that, if you asked most... You know, I'm an old Fleet Street hack, but if you ask most newspaper hacks 2, 3, 4, 5 years ago, they could have come up with a list of about 10 people. Actors went through a long phase of taking out super injunctions to make sure that stories about their behaviour could not be published by the press. It was a pretty sinister development. They seem to have faded away. I do know a couple of actors who are still hiding behind the protective shield of a super injunction, but I've never heard of the government using them before. Perhaps I'm being sort of ill-informed there, but as far as I know, I've never known about governments actually keeping secrets from the people using our legal system. Seems kind of strange. Shall we go to break? When we come back, we'll take more of your calls. Stay where you are.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. This is an hour of your calls and your WhatsApp voice notes and your texts. So get in touch, 03444991000. The floor is open. Just read a quick text, a WhatsApp text. I had this from Sue, reflecting what I think a lot of people feel. and that is that we've made some terrible balls up here, haven't we? Somebody has really screwed up, and this egregious data breach has revealed the names of Afghanis who helped, and their families who helped the Brits during the Afghanistan war. They say that list has 100,000 people on them, and we're in the process of shipping back here to 23,900, I think it is. 18,500 are already here. We didn't know about it because the government kept it secret under the cloak of a super injunction. That has to be stopped. Now, Sue says, if the Afghans that helped us are in danger because of our error, then we do have a moral duty to help all of them who wish to integrate into Western society. Fair point, Sue. She goes on to say, those who don't can take their chance in Afghanistan. If we didn't let a single migrant in, there wouldn't be a problem. Yeah, that's true. If we didn't have this sprawling, swirling mass of a migrant crisis going on, I think everybody would turn around with these Afghans and say, well, great, welcome. You deserve it. Enjoy your new life in Britain. And Sue is right. I do think we owe them a debt of responsibility. Our error, our enormous mistake, means the Taliban knows about all of these people. So I guess we have to help them. We have to say, come to Britain. But it's still, as Sue points out, if we didn't have our migrant crisis, none of it, we just shrug our shoulders about this. But, you know, the fact that, what is it, the last couple of weeks, last week or so, there's been something like 3,500 migrants have come across the channel. And they continue to come. We're going to have more than 50,000, plus we let in about the best part of 1 million legal migrants every year. You look at this, you think, oh my God, not another 20,000. I mean, these are different, but you still think numerically, how many more migrants are going to let into this country? Dear. Let's talk to Joseph in Peterborough. Hi, Joseph.
You can't find them.
Hello?
So they've cut me off then? No. How are they?
Joseph!
Yeah, don't waste my time. No, they're not.
I'm here, Joseph!
Yes. Supposed to meet
Joseph! Get Joseph back and tell him to stop talking to his wife. They're wasting my time. No, Joseph, you're wasting our time. We're trying to get hold of you. Can we get him back? What's the matter with him? Yeah, okay. Let's play a WhatsApp. Let's get Joseph back. I want to get Joseph. Let's play a WhatsApp first. Sarah on the Afghan migrants.
I would have had sympathy a year ago. I'd have said, yeah, we need to take responsibility. I'm afraid now I've had enough. I've been pushed to my limit now. We have to close our doors. I'm sorry. I run 2 small businesses. I work 7 days a week. I have worked harder than I've ever worked in my life. But because of the cost of living keep going up and up and up, my standard of living is going down, and I'm getting tired now. I'm getting tired of seeing where my money goes. I am exasperated.
Well, yeah, I mean, this is a very conflicting issue because, as I say, I think it's fair to say that we screwed up here. We owe these Afghans some kind of debt of responsibility. They helped us during the war, and now they're on the death list of the Taliban. So we owe them some kind of responsibility. But as Our Lady was just saying there, you know, it's still this numerical problem. How many more foreigners are we going to let into this country? It just doesn't quite sit right with me, although I get the argument. Let's talk to Georgina in London. Hello, Georgina.
Hi, Kevin. Well, you don't keep secrets from those who are paying the bills of this country.
Correct.
And that's us, Kevin. It's turned into a goddamn free-for-all, unless you are a British citizen, of course, and then it's a pay-for-all. and you get sweet F-all in return for all your hard work. Our country is buckled at the knee with the weight of illegal migration as it is. I understand we have a moral obligation to the people that helped our soldiers, but from what I'm seeing and the amount of people that are coming over, I mean, the government bodies have turned the UK into Gotham City, for God's sake, and we're sick of it, Kevin. It's not the fictional far right that the government needs to be worried about here. It's the rapists, pedophiles, terrorists, and God knows who else that are coming over by trains, planes, boats, and automobiles, or any other form of transportation to muster. The fact that this vast influx of Afghanis coming into the country has gone stealth under the last Conservative government and now the Labour government just goes to show the degree of deceit.
Yeah, I think it's a disgrace they kept it secret. They will no doubt argue we did it for the safety of the Afghanis, but I know why they did it. They did it because they made the most terrible mistake. They say it's the worst data breach in British history. They screwed up and they tried to throw a veil of secrecy over it. You just can't do this in a free democracy. The people have to know about this kind of stuff, don't they, Georgina?
Kevin, we have a right to know who we are letting into this country and how many. I mean, these people probably haven't even been counted on the migrant numbers. It's so dishonest. It's a blinking joke. You know, whatever's going to come next, you just never know. It's like a lottery, and it's not good. We no longer will tolerate women and children being leered at,
Yeah. Totally right. I was talking to Alex Phillips about that. She's a great campaigner on this. We are letting in too many men, sexually active men, into this country about whom we know absolutely nothing. And it seems that it's certainly a small number of them are beginning to commit sex crimes, and that is a massive, massive problem. And among these Afghanis who have been let in were people who are people who were previously denied entry into this country despite them helping the Brits during the war because they were sex offenders. We've now let them in because otherwise their lives could be at risk. Now, that sets up a very difficult quandary, but it does shine a light on one of the big problems you will encounter if you just open your borders and let hundreds of thousands, nay, millions of people into the country about whom you know nothing. It's a problem, isn't it?
Well, it's an absolute problem. And we have got to make a stand now, Kevin, and say, look, these people that are coming over on the planes, and the unmarked planes, we knew nothing about it. God bless them for helping our boys in the war. But when you've got rapists, sex offenders, I'm sorry, Kevin, we have got to make a stand somewhere. It's terrifying when you can't open your door to an Amazon driver, and it's terrifying when you can't open your door to fast food being delivered because of risk of attack. This has got to stop, and I don't know what the British public have got to do to make the voices heard.
Nor do I. I mean, we do our best here, Georgina. We scream from the rooftops. But more and more, I'm sensing that the people of this country just don't get listened to by the government, by successive governments. And I think this story of the contempt with which they treated us by throwing a veil of secrecy over this massive airlift that's been going on for 23 months, it just proves how little our politicians think about the people of this country. I think it's really, really worrying that. Georgina, got to move on. Could talk to you all night, of course, but thank you for another brilliant call. That's Georgina in London. Now, finally, I do believe we've got Joseph in Peterborough. Joseph, are you there?
Yeah. Yes, I am.
I am. I'm sorry you got messed around. You had to wait too long, but it's good to get you on board at last. What would you like to say, Joseph?
Surely the Taliban would have noticed a mass movement of thousands of people. So did the British government fly to Kabul, make an agreement, pay vast amount of monies to be able to take all these people out of the country?
Well, they're not coming out of Afghanistan. Somehow or other, the British forces have been secreting people out of Afghanistan into Pakistan. So they've been airlifted from Pakistan. So you can get, obviously, from Afghanistan to Pakistan across the Khyber Pass. There's a sort of fairly narrow border territory between those two countries, very mountainous, very difficult terrain, but somehow or other we've been sneaking thousands of Afghanis.
I find that very hard to believe.
Well, that's what's been happening.
Thousands of people can be moving across Pakistan with past through Kabul without the Taliban finding out.
Well, the Taliban are saying, Joseph, the Taliban are saying that they already knew everyone on this list already, and I wouldn't be entirely surprised.
Yeah, that's a bit of a puzzle for me.
Yeah, the Taliban will have known about a lot of these people that we've been flying out. But I don't believe the British government would have done a deal with the Taliban about getting these.
Well,
people.
then they're probably glad to get rid of them. They're the worst of their kind, probably.
Well, 18,500 have already come over. We think that the total amount when they've completed this operation will be 23,900 people. So somehow or other they have been getting them out of Afghanistan and flying them out of Pakistan. That's what's been happening.
It's still a lot more people coming into this country.
Well, yeah, that is worrying, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah. I mean, that said, for me it throws up, conflicting emotions. These are people who risked their lives to help the Brits during the war in Afghanistan. And as such, we owe them some kind of debt of responsibility, I think. And the fact that we've accidentally, incompetently leaked all of their details and the Taliban's got hold of them, that means we owe them even more of a responsibility. So in the end, in my heart of hearts, I can't object to getting those people out of Afghanistan.
No, I don't either.
Yeah.
Well, here's the question, Kevin.
Yeah.
In Ireland, all foreigners that enter are fingerprinted.
Yeah.
Do we do the same here?
I don't believe that we do, no.
Well, that's the mistake.
Yeah.
Because they can commit... Who knows how many rapes, murders, robberies, violence they've committed on their ways here, through all the countries they pass through. How many girls have been raped? How many have been damaged?
I don't know, Joseph, but I mean, I'll have to look into that, but I'm pretty certain we don't fingerprint people as they come in.
This can't be the first crime they've committed.
No. I mean, we probably should keep closer tabs on everybody coming into this country, particularly illegal migrants. That's where our problem is.
Fingerprint. We should take photographs.
Yeah, but if you take fingerprints of the cross-channel small boat migrants, I mean, it's not necessarily going to get you anywhere. Do you see what I mean?
Well, at least we know who commits the crime, the fingerprints of the evidence.
I see what you mean. You mean we record them when they get here. Yeah, that is a good point. I don't think we do that. We don't do that, I don't think.
Well, that's stupid. That's even worse.
It is stupid, but there are lots of elements of our migrant crisis that are incredibly stupid. It is an operation run by Dumb and Dumber, and it gets dumber every day. Joseph, very good points. Sorry you had to wait so long, but thank you for ringing. That's Joseph in Peterborough. Let's go to a break now. When we come back, more of your calls, more of your messages, more of your WhatsApp voice notes, so stick around.
Yeah, I mean, there's not many early morning government stats releases that makes you spit out your cornflakes, but I think this is probably one of them, because the fact that 1.3 million migrants are on universal credit is just a massive slap in the chops to many hard-working Brits, especially when you consider that the majority of them are not in work. I think most right-minded Brits will think, why on earth are you allowed to come to this country if you cannot support yourself? Because at the moment it shouldn't be British taxpayers who are bailing you out.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Couple of texts. Stuart writes to me, says, Kevin, to Keir Starmer, the far right is anyone who is white and doesn't vote for Labour. I think you're probably right. Seriously. Gary sends me a text. He says, our town of Bracknell has accepted 300 Afghan migrants already. It's been agreed. This is no secret, but has caused much discussion. Well, it is a secret how they got here, isn't it? I mean, we've only just found out how they've been getting here. So, yeah, you may have received some Afghanis, but how did they get here? They kept the airlift operation a secret. What was it called again? Rubicon or something. I'm going to look up what it was called. What was it called? I'll find out and reveal that in just a second. I did mention it earlier. Let's listen to a quick WhatsApp voice note. This is Steve on the Afghan migrants.
So all these Afghans that are coming over are people who are supposed to have helped us. What are they then? Like, are they going to dress it up as war heroes, like desert rats or something? Come on, do me a favour. We all know it's just part of the influx. It's speeding up. It's entering warp speed now. Do you know what I mean? This is only what we've just found about. God knows what we don't even know about yet, Kev. Come on, mate.
I think Steve's asking questions that I think we should ask. I mean, Rod Liddle pointed this out earlier. 100,000? There are 100,000 Afghanis helping the Brits during the Afghanistan war? That seems like a vast, vast list. Were there really that many? Is this just another way of this government, which loves migrants, letting more people in? 03444991000. Let's play one more WhatsApp voice note. This is Martin again on the Afghan migrants.
Keeping secrets from the people. It's not just keeping secrets from the people, it's keeping secrets from the Taliban, etc. They've given them time to settle in and, mingle, disappear, whatever. Yeah, I agree with you on just about everything, buddy. But this one, I think you need to step back and take a look at the bigger picture.
Okay, Martin, fair enough. I'm just not having it. I'm not having a government keeping secrets from the people. I know this is a sensitive issue, but we vote these people in. It's their job to keep us in the picture, and I'm not having it. They can't keep secrets from the people of this country. We can deal with it. We can deal with the information. I understand what you're saying, that it could be argued that if you reveal this, it puts the Afghanis at risk. But I think the Taliban probably knew what was going on anyway, so not sure that entirely holds water, that argument. Let's speak to Robert in London. Hello, Robert.
Hello there, good to speak to you.
You too.
Yeah, what it is all these people coming over from abroad,
yep.
They're getting all these benefits,
yep.
And the people of this country are getting no benefit. I'm married to a Filipino lady,
yes.
And my wife has been here 35 years and never asked a penny from this country, and she's very sick. She suffers from sciatica, asthma, and any other illnesses she has, and she's never asked a penny. And there's a lot of Filipino nurses that work in our hospitals, and they never ask a penny. And you've got all these other people coming from Afghanistan, all over, all these other war-strong countries, and they're all getting benefits, free hotels, free phones, free joyride. It's just not on.
Yeah, well, that's what annoys people. That's what annoys people,
yeah.
Robert.
How many more secrets are the government hiding from us? Because we know what Starmer's like. He's always lies and lies and lies.
Yeah.
And he's treating this country as a second or third world country when he goes off gallivanting across to the EU and France and all the rest of it.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's a good question. That how many more secrets is this government, previous governments, been keeping from us? You know, I've never known this before. Perhaps I'm being ill-informed, but how many? I've never known a government to take out a super injunction to keep a political situation a secret from the people. Yeah, it's not.
And we don't even know what they're like. We don't even know their backgrounds or anything.
Well, we don't because I mean I get it that we've got to look after these people. We can't let them stay in Afghanistan at risk of their lives because they did help us during the war. So I guess we owe them. But there is that question. There is a question, Robert. You're right. That doesn't negate or detract from the fact that we don't know anything about these people.
Well, that's it. There's a security risk.
Yeah, well, there is.
People are getting frightened to go out now.
I know. Particularly women. You're exactly right.
Yeah, young women. You know, they used to be able to go to the pub on their own.
Well, not anymore. This country is changing, and not for the better, Robert.
Yeah.
Listen, Robert,
exactly.
Good to talk to you, man. Good to talk to you. Call me again. That's London. That's Robert in London. Let's take a last WhatsApp voice note, Rob, on the Afghan migrants.
Kev, this is just another example of corrupt governments doing what they always do best, hide things from the people because they think we're kids and we can't handle it. I'll tell you what I can't handle, yeah? It's the ongoing rape of the young girls in my country. I can't stand the illegal immigrants in hotels being paid for by my taxes. You know what I'd say, Kev? Have a look at the person who released the documents. What ties have they got to the left? What ties have they got to Afghanistan?
That's Rob voicing the concerns of a lot of people. A lot of people getting very worried about the potential for sex crimes committed by all of these asylum seeker blokes that we keep letting in. We like to say they're of military age, but if you think about it, they're of sexually active age. And at least some of them, very small minority, let's be fair, but some of them are being done for rape as we speak. And this sex crime problem, if it's proved that more and more of these guys are raping or sexually assaulting British women, it is a recipe for disaster. You're going to get riots. You really, really will. I hope that the government realise this. You've got to be careful here, guys. Petri Hoskin will be in just a little while to tell you what she has got lined up for your entertainment from 10 p.m. until 1 a.m. into the small hours. So that in just a second, but we've got time for another call. This is on a topic that I find very interesting. It is Janet in Leicester, and she wants to talk about the little girl, the 12-year-old girl who went to school in a Union Jack dress and ended up in big trouble. Hi, Janet. What would you like to say?
Hello. I want to tell you I'm nowhere near as eloquent as Grace in London, but I want to tell Courtney I'm so proud of her.
Good for you.
And I want to throw out some form of challenge to any magazine or any photo shoot company. Put this lady, young lady, who I'm absolutely proud of, in the picture.
Yeah.
Let's make...
That's a great idea. Somebody should do a newspaper spread with Courtney in her lovely Union Jack dress. I've got a text here from Deb that you might be interested in, Janet. She says, if Courtney had worn a Palestinian flag dress, she would have been welcomed with open arms. I think that's a good point.
No. Not by the majority of decent
Yeah, but
people.
she would in the school, trust me.
Do you think so?
Yes,
well,
I do. I know so.
Let's make Courtney a bit of an icon, shall we?
Yeah, absolutely. Why do you think, Janet? Why do you think, Janet, this school felt the need to have something called a diversity day? And it turns out that diversity day means the absolute exclusion of anything British.
But strangely enough, I had a business in Rugby, and it was the best of my 3 little shops. I sold dress fabric.
Okay, yeah.
Now,
interesting.
I was absolutely affected by the majority of people on a stop-off point in Rugby made their home there. It was diverse, they were friendly, I loved all of my customers. I'm surprised that this is happening in Rugby. I'm just so surprised.
I'm afraid that it's happening all over the country, Janet. Britishness seems to be one of the most appalling crimes you can commit in Britain, which seems a bit crazy. Janet, really nice call. Thank you very much for ringing. Please call me again. That was Janet in Leicester. Well, that was a hell of an hour, wasn't it? I told you, the whole hour for you lot. What more can I give you? I've given you everything. Talking of which, guess who's in the studio? It's Petri Hoskin. She's here. Hi.
Hello. Yeah, coming up, I don't know, well, you must have seen this story. I was absolutely fascinated. These are the babies of Tuam in Northern Ireland, in County Galway.
Oh, yeah.
And the excavation began yesterday. It could take 2 years to uncover the bodies of 796 babies.
It's extraordinary.
It is an absolutely gripping story as to why these children born of mothers out of wedlock, up until 61, I mean up until 1970.
So they killed them because they weren't born out of wedlock?
We don't know whether they were killed or whether they died of malnutrition. Most of them died. We don't know. But the police are going to be there for any signs that these children.
I doubt if they dug the holes themselves, did they?
Huh?
I doubt if they dug the holes themselves.
It's just so horrendous to think that
horrible,
many babies were buried in this way, whether they were just chucked in a cesspit. Did you know that? But up until the 1970s, single mothers were put in mental institutions. So, you know, this is recent history.
Yeah, I know.
And these poor children, why were they buried in this? Well, not even buried, chucked in a septic tank. 796 of them. Were the nuns complicit in this? Did they kill the baby? What is the story here? So I really I know it's gruesome, but it's a fascinating piece of recent history.
Yeah.
That is
and the sort of history that we should delve